Welcome back to Splice Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, a classic horror.
It's modern gore.
My partner commented that we're really bad at intros, and now I'm all the more nervous for it, because, like, of course I know we're bad at intros, but now I'm all the more aware of how bad at intros we are, and it's only going to get worse now.
Yeah, when someone points it out, it really, like, we know, guys.
We know!
We do the same
aware.
thing every time, because I don't think you understand the process of we're hanging out.
Yeah.
We're just chit-chatting away, and then all
Being
of a sudden they're, like,
people.
rolling, and we're like, fuck.
And we get nervous every time, and then we talk on mic about being nervous every time.
I know, sorry.
Yeah.
Everyone just forwards.
It's going to keep happening.
This part.
Yeah.
Skip 30 seconds.
How are you doing, Al?
Good.
Are you?
I'm on the other side of it.
Yes. When this comes out, we'll be on the other side.
Yeah, when this comes out. So, Siena knows because they've been working with me so closely lately. But I guess, like, I'm going to tease our thing. So, officially, the bar Milk of the Poppy is open here in Santa Fe.
Yeah.
So you can come. It's Wednesday through Saturday, 6 to midnight here in the Rail Yard district of Santa Fe. So I've been working on that very intensely. I just finished the menu last week. Not making it, like, the creation of, for those that need a refresher, creative director here.
Yes.
Busy with lots of creating and directing things. So
many graphics of late.
So many graphics. Yeah, I got a 24-hour turnaround of that menu, and I was just like, so we pushed this guy back.
Yep.
So yeah.
And picked some comfort movies for ourselves, which I am so glad we did that. This really soothed me.
I was gonna say I left it on a cliffhanger last week.
You sure did, yeah.
Or whatever it was.
Time is not real. It's
we decided, as you're telling by the title, you know which one I picked. Sorry y'all didn't get a choice. I had to choose for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah,
this was a
Barbarian.
self-care choice.
It was, and it was.
Yeah.
I'm so happy. I love this movie so much. So, I'm glad we did comfort ones. How are you?
I agree. I am so happy that we revisited Fire Walk with Me. Yeah. I changed my Letterboxd top 4.
Oh my god, really? Can you do that? Is it like MySpace?
It is. It's exactly like MySpace. Yeah. Tom's my top movie now. Isn't that the MySpace guy?
Yes.
Tom?
I was like, what's the movie?
What are you talking about, Sienna?
Someone should make a horror movie that's called
Tom about the MySpace guy. Ooh.
And he's just a catfish and he just murders people. And his top 4 are the people he murdered.
Blumhouse, call us.
Oh my god, that'd be actually sick.
I would watch that.
Yeah.
I would. Yeah.
He would probably, like, what's he even up to? Murdering people.
Probably. Who knows? Yeah. Tom feels like a concept.
Yeah.
The concept of Tom. Anyway, I'm getting real off track here. I was incredibly happy to be revisiting this movie, especially because it obviously really landed with me this time, but also as I was prepping for this, my favorite film podcast dropped a 4-hour episode on Mulholland Drive. And so I've just been, like, deep in the David Lynch of it all.
Is that the Girls
Guts and Giallo?
Yeah.
Yes.
I was like,
everybody go listen to Girls Guts and Giallo. Annie Rose Malamet, she's incredible. And she goes, like, scene by scene through a movie. So I was, like, writing my notes on this while listening to this description of Mulholland Drive, and I just feel very very in the Lynch universe, which is where I want to live. So,
I know. I actually said that, like, watching this. My friend Liz too, who you just, like, know by me telling you about her.
We follow each other on Letterboxd. I feel like
super film nerd who I went to. We were in film program together, but she just revisited Mulholland Drive too the other day and was like, "Al, you need to rewatch it." I'm like, I absolutely do. The Lynch universe is just, like, I just love, like, what a weird dreamscape.
Yeah.
And I want to go to there. I want to go to all of them, as fucked up as they are.
And I had no idea how it was going to pair with Barbarian, and it paired really well.
I'm so curious to hear what you think, because I watched them a week separate from each other. And again, my brain is, like, on such overload right now that I'm so far away from watching Twin Peaks.
Fair.
And watching that film that it it jump started me to wanting to finish or rewatch finish Twin Peaks to watch Twin Peaks again.
Same. Yeah, I'm like I need to go back and revisit the original series now, especially because it's so tonally different than this movie.
Oh my god, yeah.
But yeah, I brought in notes on why I think Barbarian works as a pairing for this one. So
oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, I can maybe throw that in at the end. But like, it definitely felt like there was a lot more there than I thought there might be. Yeah, in terms
I think
of crossover.
with the female kind of I'm very excited to.
There's so much
to hear.
Yeah. Should we dive in?
Yeah, I'm going
ready?
first.
Yeah. Yes. Do you have a tidbit?
I do. I have two actually. One of them
Two
blew my mind. So Barbarian it was my second time watching it. 2022. So this is like, I think this is the most recent film I've done. Being 3 years ago.
Pearl, also 22.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I also feel like.
Yes, I read that. Yeah.
Watching this, I was like, oh, this guy and Ty West have a lot in common. Just like.
It feels like this, like, again, 2022 on, I feel like there's, again, like this different energy of horror.
Yeah.
I'm loving.
The needle drop moment in this felt a lot like when Don't Fear the Reaper comes on in X. That there was like a really similar. Like when you shift to Justin Long's part of the narrative in this and you're driving down the beach, that like hard cut with the music felt very like a Ty West moment.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And then, so do we want to talk about your experience watching first before my tid?
Ooh, should we? I don't know.
Okay.
Is it going to affect your tid?
Oh, God, I don't know. No, I'm afraid. Never mind. Shut your mouth.
Okay. Mouth shut.
Shut your mouth.
No affecting
I will give
the
you
tid.
my tidbits and my bit tids.
Excellent.
This first one, so they're both about the title, are my tidbits.
Oh, interesting.
This one blew my mind. So Barbarian is the title. It all takes place in the Airbnb. It's like this whole mishap, whatever. The title of the movie is written only using the letters from Airbnb. Yes, I had the same reaction, which was just, what the fuck?
I love that.
And so on top of that, with the title, I have Warren looking around. Also with the title, I know. The term barbarian originated in ancient Rome, where the Romans would call non-Latin speakers barbarians because of their language sounded like bar, is what they said, which is what the mother sounds like when she's trying to say baby.
Mama!
Isn't that wild?
Oh my god, I love this.
And then not confirmed by Kreger, our writer-director, but, or this next part. So that is technically confirmed. The next part is the film is set on 476 Barbary Street, which is the year 476, which is when the barbarians invaded Rome. You should have. Okay, history. I was like, news to me. Also, year 476 is just like a wild concept in my brain.
Yeah, it's hard to think about.
But yeah,
years
so
without.
Those are my tidbits, and I would ask you how you feel about the movie, but now I'm afraid.
I have so many different feelings on this movie.
Really?
Yeah,
I want to hear, because as we like move through,
I feel like my feelings may change on it from hearing about it. I feel like it's one of those because, like, the thing I walked away feeling really conflicted between like two main feelings kind of pulling me in different directions, one of which is like, this director is a genius. Like, clearly he's really studied horror, and like, especially for a first feature, it is so carefully constructed, and like I never knew where it was gonna go, and I was like screaming at the screen.
Oh, for sure.
And then at the same time, very much fell into kind of an Ari Aster camp for me of like, but why though?
Oh, I might have the answer.
That's
to
why I'm like, I feel like
Maybe.
if I hear more about it,
Sure.
it might make me feel. It might lean me more towards the positive side of that, because I'm like, I can tell there's really careful thought behind this movie, and I want to hear about what it was, because I feel like I'm like reserving judgment until I hear more.
It actually makes sense for you, kind of. I feel like no, because I think what's so like awesome about us coming into the podcast is we have
different tastes.
We have such different tastes, so I do feel like sometimes finding this like or being confronted with like, I don't really like this, but now I appreciate it.
Yeah, like
vibe.
when one of us is able to like bring the other to a new appreciation, I'm like,
bring the other to the light.
Bring me to the light.
Let me take you out of the basement.
Yes, take me out of the basement. Bring me to the light, because like there's so much here that's so well done, and that I have so much admiration for, and so like I want to go all the way into loving this movie.
Sure.
And like help me get there.
Okay, I'll try again. I struggled to get my notes done.
Great. And of course I just put so much pressure on you, but
no big deal. We're gonna start with tagline.
Love.
I think it's short, sweet, gets to the point. I didn't have any other than one. So tagline: come for a night, stay forever. It's great. Love. I like it. Yeah.
Love. This film does such a good job, or the marketing of this film does such a good job of not revealing its hand.
Yeah.
You know?
There's a fun little marketing thing they did that I'll end on. Description. I kind of just said it already. It's in the title, Airbnb. A woman staying at an Airbnb discovers that the house she rented is not what it seems. And boy, is it not. We have writer-director, which I love a writer-director, Zach Kreger. I will be calling him Kreger for the remainder because we have two
he's got a
Zachs.
name like that.
I know. Wait till you hear the cinematographer that comes right after. They have the best name, and I feel like they sound like a lawyer's office.
Incredible.
So he's kind of like an actor as well. Looking at his IMDb was kind of wild for me. So he previously starred in a TV show from 2016 to 2018 called Bergt. And was one of the creators of the show, which I totally forgot about, The Whitest People You Know. Did you forget about that show? Because I did.
Oh my God, you just brought me back.
Yeah, what a time, a moment in time.
What a time.
Yeah, so he was a creator of that show, so that's kind of where he's come from. So I think his humor in that way is kind of sprinkled about.
I saw a Letterboxd review of somebody being like directed by the whitest guy you know, and I thought they were just being mean.
Yeah. He's just the whitest guy you know. No, it was directly a nod. Glad you saw that. Anyone
Incredible.
Else? He's also slated to direct the 2026 Resident Evil.
Oh, interesting.
So I think
I think we're playing at the theater.
We are playing at the theater. Yeah. Shout out
Resident Evil.
So in the two Zachs, we have cinematographer Zach Cooperstein. So we got Kreger and
Cooperstein.
They're gonna fight crime.
Such a legal firm. Yeah.
It's in the Daredevil universe. So
they truly are the whitest guys, you know.
So Cooperstein, he worked on 2016 Southern Gothic film The Eyes of My Mother, which I feel like when he comes up, he doesn't have like a big list of things, but that one's definitely noted. He also had two films come out in 2019. He was cinematographer for The Climb and The Vigil. He's kind of worked around like horror and thrillery stuff. And then most recently, he was the DP for 2023's Woman of the Hour, starring Anna Kendrick, which I don't know if you saw like a clip from that. Of her walking in the parking lot, like I.
Yeah,
which
I haven't seen the movie,
great.
But yeah, truly terrifying.
Yeah. So we love him. They kind of have. I feel like a lot of people on this project have like littler or like lesser known stuff on their resume, and then coming into this, so this seems to be everyone's like biggest thing that they've done, which I love for them. So going through cast, we have Georgina Campbell as Tess. She is our final girl. She's a badass. I fucking love her.
She's
although
good.
she has some moments where I'm like, girl,
I have some questions about her choices.
I know,
but
I just think I'm such a hyper vigilant person, and I don't trust a goddamn person ever.
Particularly not a strange man.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
At all.
Like, never a man.
Never a man.
Alone in the room with a man. So she's in an episode of Black Mirror. She was in Bird Box Barcelona. And then The Watchers. So she's kind of our scream queen as well.
I definitely was like, I'm recognizing her from somewhere.
Her face looks really familiar. We have Bill Skarsgård, of course, as Keith. Again, a scream king of ours. So Pennywise in the It franchise. He's in a TV series, Hemlock Grove, which is where I first discovered him. It's amazing, like vampire werewolf, dark gothic like TV show that I feel got zero appreciation when it was out. I think there's like 3 seasons. Obviously, we both saw him in Nosferatu. We have another Scream King. We have Justin Long as AJ. And is this your first Justin Long film that you've seen?
No.
Oh, okay.
What have I seen him in though? Like he's one of those people.
Accepted. Do you remember that movie? Not horror.
I
Horror if you don't
remember
like
the
college.
trailer for that movie. Did not watch it.
Yeah.
But, God, what have I seen Justin Long in? I know I've seen Justin Long
just kind of in
things.
everything. He's in like the new Goosebumps show on Disney Plus too.
Yeah.
I'm
very
sure
much
you
like
did not see that. But
very much lives in my head as like Scream King.
Yeah. So for those of you living under a goddamn rock, Jeepers Creepers, Galaxy Quest, Kevin Smith's Tusk.
Is he in Cabin in the Woods? Am I making that up?
Yeah, you're making that up.
Am I making that up? Great.
Oh my god,
Love
am I
that.
being gaslit by you?
Help!
Yeah, no, you're not in that. He could have been in, though.
It feels
He
like
looks generic white boy. You know, like to a point. I actually watched. Not to get. God, we're getting so sidetracked.
I'm falling apart, y'all.
I watched in the last like 24 hours. I watched 5 Final Destinations. And
Oh
when I tell you, all of those white men look the same. That I didn't know what one I was on and which one got killed. I was like, didn't you already die by
Doesn't even matter.
getting cut in
past a
half?
certain point?
No, that was 2.
Yeah, great.
So I feel like he gives that. Weirdly enough, though, Justin Long was not the first choice for this role.
Oh my god, it seems like a perfect.
Yeah.
Like, of course you cast Justin Long.
You
for
would
this.
think.
Yeah.
The choice would have been wild. Kreger originally offered the role to fucking Zac Efron.
Another Zach!
Oh my god! That's why. He just wanted to hire another Zac.
He needed to add another one to the legal firm.
So it could be Zac, and Zac.
Yes!
There's never mind. I'm gonna get too distracted. Yeah, so Zac fucking Efron.
Oh my god.
Horrible choice. No offense.
So funny.
To that little angel.
Yeah.
It would have been a wildly different movie.
Yeah. I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah. Like 2018 Zac Efron, maybe. But Justin Long is so good at being like an asshole.
Well, and I also think it's really clever casting that you have Bill Skarsgård kind of set up as like you think that that's gonna be the big bad because it's Bill Skarsgård and he's always the big
tall,
bad.
he's looming.
Yeah,
it's
and
weird
instead
and
he's
awkward.
your first to die, and then
so brutally,
and then you cast Justin Long, who's like so often like your lovable soft guy.
Yeah, he's like the boy next door.
Yeah,
sure.
as like a gross creep. Like I feel like it's clever casting.
Yeah.
And I think if you cast Zac Efron, not to say that Zac Efron is like a creepy person. I just think Justin Long so lives in my head as like unassuming.
Sure.
And I think that's a big part of why casting him works.
Well, Zach Kreger too, he after Zach turned it down, Zach EF, after he turned it down, Kreger like rewrote and rethought the role for Justin Long.
Oh,
so in that way
that.
too, I would be curious of what the character would have been.
What it was, yeah. Because maybe it would have worked better for what it was before.
Yeah, Pretty Boy Hollywood, and I think that instead they did like declining creep Hollywood. 2 different sides of Hollywood, man, and they both exist at the same time.
Excellent choice in my opinion.
We have, and I feel so bad, we'll give a shout out to your friend. We have Matthew Patrick Davis as the mother. Which Siena is friends with their partner.
My producer Emma is Matt's partner, and I was live texting her my reactions as I was watching the movie, and I got to the nose boop, and I texted Emma and I was like, nose boop! And
the boop!
It's so good.
Sweet.
And Emma texts me back and she's like, now imagine you're a nose booper and you watch this with your partner for the first time and you're like, I can never boop a nose in the same way again.
It's true. It ruined nose booping.
Yep.
And you so like Sienna was very nice and tried to connect me, and the world has been so busy.
The world's been very busy. But anyway, shout out to Matt.
Maybe we do a little side episode because what a character.
Yes.
So
what a physical performance too.
So don't know him. I have a little bit about him. He really had a hand at making the mother in this, so I kind of like love him just through this role. So he is kind of written down as I wrote down like the spouse of Siena's friend. He's also an actor, a songwriter, and musician, so I love that. And when he joined the project, a lot of things were actually kept secret from him, so he didn't really know a lot kind of getting this role. And he said, quote, "There are usually renderings that you see, but I was not shown anything. I was on a plane to the destination, which we'll get to, and crossing my fingers, hoping it would be convincing." So he got there, he kind of didn't know, but he did have a hand at like working with Kreger on this design, which I really love, and like how he wanted to play this character. So they were also like developing this character all the way up until shooting, it sounds like, too, just to make sure everything looked great. And so, according to Matthew, the first iteration of the mother was, quote, a little cartoony. He said, like, the teeth were way too big, and the boobs were, quote, they looked like she had cosmetic surgery.
No.
Which, like, pop off. We don't want to body shame, but also
like,
does not work for the character.
She's living underground.
Yeah,
That's my reaction.
She's not, like, worried about that.
Also, like, she doesn't have the money. Like,
honestly, to not be perceived.
Yeah.
Bless her.
Bring me to that basement, baby.
So I'd be so curious to see if there's drawings of these things, or if they just lived in Zach Cregger's brain. So yeah, he said they worked together, but they kind of had different ideas of this character. So there was a lot of bumping heads and kind of working with each other, to which Matthew said, quote, again, it was touch and go, but the effects team in the place that we're not talking about yet was excellent. I don't want to spoil if we don't know where this was shot yet, because it kind of blew my mind. So moving on from the mother, which we'll get back to later, we have Richard Brake as Frank. He's the dad, and he is
so gross,
disgusting. We have a fun story about him.
Been in, because he looked familiar too.
Yes.
Maybe not.
You might know him from things. I didn't recognize him from a ton. He's in Kingsman: The Secret Service, Hannibal Rising, Doom. And then he's also going to be in 2025's The Strangers Chapter 2.
Look at that. The Horror King.
We'll see how I feel about that one. Hopefully it's better than the first one. Oh, wait, no, The Strangers. I like The Strangers.
I was like, I thought you liked that one.
What's the one with what's her name? The couple in the house. I hated that one.
The Strangers.
It was The Strangers. Oh, yeah, I don't like The Strangers. That's how much I don't remember it, because nothing fucking happened. Yeah, thanks, Trav. And then in horror fashion, we also have a director cameo from Zach Cregger himself. He plays one of AJ's friends who he meets at the club, and drunkenly confesses his crimes too. But he's kind of like an actor. He kind of shows up in like random shit.
And he was good. It wasn't like a director cameo where you're like, oh, that's got to be the director, because that person's
was bad.
Stiff. Yeah.
That was rough.
Yeah.
So script and concept. This is where I'm hoping this sheds a little bit of light.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I found it really fascinating. So the initial concept of Barbarian came from when Cregger read a book called The Gift of Fear, which is a 1997 self-help book by a security specialist named Gavin de Becker. Great name. The book actually encourages women to trust their intuition when confronted by obviously dangerous men and kind of like red flags. So the description of the book reads, or like a little blurb reads, by finding patterns in stories of violence and abuse, de Becker seeks to highlight the inherent predictability of violence. The book explores various settings where violence may be found: the workplace, the home, the school, dating, and describes what de Becker calls pre-incident indicators, or pins. So I love that he kind of like found this security guy.
I like that.
I know. So that's where the tiny little seed was planted. And so he took this topic after reading the book and crafted a 30-minute short film, like a script for a 30-minute short film. And the short script was just a conversation where a woman kind of kept ignoring red flags of like a dude that she was speaking to, and he liked it so much that he was like, I feel like I could turn this into a feature.
Interesting.
Let me do that. So it kind of,
because it does kind of have that feeling of like it's like unraveling as it goes, and like you almost, it kind of makes sense that it would have come from something shorter that he's then just seeing where it
tiny idea and then expanded in like essentially 3 chapters for me is what it feels like. There's like 1, 2, and 3. I feel like they could be their own shorts in a way if you split them up.
So first one being up until Justin Long. Justin Long starts the second one. Would the third one start with the flashback for you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That's kind of what I was thinking too. Cool.
The flashback's so good.
Oh my God. Took a lot of notes on that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We'll have a little mini section about visuals so we can hear from you on that. I thought it was really interesting. So Cregger admitted, how dare.
There's too many Zachs in this soup.
Heffron? So Cregger admitted to having a hard time getting Barbarian made because of this unconventional plot
I can imagine.
Going. And even A24 passed on it, which I think is wild.
It feels like an A24 movie.
Right? Especially really like 2022. It feels like it fits in the space that, but maybe they were I don't know. There was a lot of good stuff coming out 2022, so maybe they're like,
they might have just been like, we have
enough
of this kind of horror on our slate.
I'm thinking. So it's wild that they passed on it. Ultimately, it went to 20th Century Studios.
Interesting.
So they took a chance on it, and then it was produced by Boulder Light Pictures, who I looked them up because I wasn't familiar with the name. So they did obviously Barbarian. They did Becky and its sequel, The Wrath of Becky, which I really want to watch. The Vigil, Anna Kendrick's Woman of the Hour, which we talked about. And so they kind of have that's coming to Netflix. And then as of 2023, they kind of entered a first look deal with New Line Cinema, where they produced Drew Hancock's sci-fi thriller Companion, which is one of Zach Cregger's newest kind of, it's like the whole crew and everyone kind of moved over to that too. It's supposed to be like a pairing with Barbarian. I tried to read up but I don't want to spoil it for me. So
I've unfortunately had that one spoiled for me by just the internet.
No, see, I try so hard. I mean, I try so hard to avoid that stuff.
You're much better at avoiding spoilers than I am. And normally I don't care. That one I feel like I shouldn't have had spoiled for me, but I will not. I will not do the same to you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Or for you guys listening. So again, he said he kind of had a hard time making this. And though not credited in any way, there was some uncredited help from Cregger's friend, one of the greatest horror directors of our generation, I feel, Jordan Peele. They're besties. And so while writing and developing this, he got advice. So actress Georgina Campbell, who plays Tess, said in an IndieWire interview that Cregger is, quote, good friends with Jordan Peele, and I think he spoke to Jordan Peele a lot while he was writing this film, and Jordan Peele saw an early cut of it as well, so he definitely had some kind of part in the essence of this movie.
That makes sense on a couple different levels. Particularly being somebody else who kind of came from the like early YouTube comedy sphere and then transitioned to horror. It makes sense that they would have so many things stylistically in common. And I will also say part of what I think kind of gave me like a bit of a mixed reaction on my first watch was that I turned it off and I was like, I feel like Us did the same thing better. And like I may come to a different feeling over the course of this, but it definitely felt like those two are working with really similar material.
I didn't make that connection, and I just watched.
Interesting.
I didn't watch Us, but I watched Get Out and Nope over the weekend too.
I still haven't seen Nope, but I also really want us to cover.
Yeah, we have to save it for that. But that's so funny. I didn't put those in conversation with each other. I mean, if you're gonna put those next to each other, Us is like so fucking fantastic that it's like don't even. Like,
which is like again maybe not fair to Barbarian.
Yeah, like I would say that's not because
that's fair.
Us is so
it's so good.
Like,
it's
you can't hold up.
That's fair.
Next to Jordan Peele. I'm sorry, it's just not gonna happen. So
delete that one.
Yeah. Take that out. So budget for this, I'll let you take a stab at budget for this. I mean, it's like,
it's a first time director, but he's got some YouTube cred, and YouTube cred goes a ways in the like first time director horror sphere.
Yeah.
I want to guess like 5 mil.
Oh my god, you're so close. Yeah, like 4 to 4.5.
Oh, okay.
Shall I reveal what it grossed? Or should I say that? You want to hear it now?
I want to hear it now.
45 million.
Wow. Go Cregger. My God.
45 million. In 2022,
really
too, when like we were just getting back into going to the theater, it's kind of wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so similar, the other one that it's kind of reminding me a little bit of is Talk to Me, which of course A24, but also somebody who is like two directors who came from like the YouTube comedy sphere and then turned to horror, similar budget. I feel like there's a whole thing.
Yeah, we should talk about that. That's amazing.
I need to like break out the Charlie from Always Sunny style board and like start doing like red string.
I have seen that.
Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so this one kind of like killed it, and
interesting
for the right reasons, I think. So going into production, me being very mysterious. So the exterior neighborhoods were shot and filmed in Brightmoor,
in Detroit.
In Detroit. Yeah, okay, so shout out to my fellow Detroit people. And the rest of the film was shot in Sofia, Bulgaria. I know, it blew my mind. Trav knew it. It was rude.
One of my namesakes.
I know. That's is it really one of your namesakes?
Mm-hmm.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
When I saw it, I thought of you.
Yeah.
Bulgaria. Bulgaria, really. Yeah, so wild. So when do I get into that? Yes, I get into it right away. Perfect. Before Cooperstein, our cinematographer, one of the Zacks, was on board for the production, he had actually chosen to shoot in Bulgaria's New Bojana studio with the intent of shooting on their American Town section of the backlot that they have there.
Amazing.
But then, like, the Zacks got there, they saw, like, a video... They saw a video or like went there and saw it, and the section that they saw was like so beyond the American Town that they wanted. So we're like, we're gonna pivot on that. We're not gonna compromise. Yeah. Like, they said it was kind of, for the camera movements they wanted to do, they said they just didn't have the space that they wanted to work. So instead they decided to build their own studio and like their own little town.
Whoa.
So they did it from scratch. Obviously other than the exteriors, but like the streets, they built their own American town on like a little plot of land.
Wild.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's so... You hear a lot about productions going to like Eastern Europe for like tax breaks and stuff, but I've not heard about Bulgaria in particular. I'm curious about their film industry now.
I didn't look up their studio, but this one's like pretty well known, I think. Sorry I didn't dive into that, guys. But yeah, I love that they were like, no, that's not what America looks like. We're good. We're gonna pass and we're gonna build our own.
I love that.
Yeah. So Cooperstein said, quote, "The line producer suggested that instead of using a studio, we build the whole thing from scratch in a field. We were like, it sounds crazy, but it sounded like way too much to build. But the American town was too confining, so we chose the farm location, and I'm very happy we did."
Smart.
Which we'll get back to the American town.
There's a lot of like very fluid moving long take camera stuff, and so like
they played around a lot.
You want that space.
Yeah. And a little fun tidbit, aside from the actors and producers, Kreger and Cooperstein were the only Americans members of the crew.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so Cooperstein kind of admitted that he was a bit nervous, but after shooting, he said about his crew, quote, "They were fantastic. A lot of huge American movies come through this studio, so this was maybe the smallest thing they had ever done and the biggest thing I had ever done. Yeah. They brought a lot of experience, but also enthusiasm, because they weren't just cogs in a machine the way they might be on a bigger project." So I love that he gave them a little shout. I imagine it's got to be weird. I'm so curious, again, like shooting in Bulgaria, what is their process? What is it like compared to American studios? For me, I just have this perception that it's so much more freeing and artistic.
I hope so.
I don't know, like in a way that, like,
if they've got that many big productions coming through,
they're doing something.
They're doing something. Yeah.
So speaking of visuals, we're going to jump into that. So Kreger describes this film, and I love this so much, the visuals of this film, I should say, as, quote, "a Fincher movie on the top floor and a Raimi movie under the house, aka a Fincher in the streets, but a Raimi in the sheets," is what I wrote.
Oh my God, that's so much better.
Right?
Yes.
Gets the point across. To this, Kreger said, quote, "The main references were Fincher upstairs, Raimi downstairs. We tried to be as motivated as possible with the camera movement when all things were happening upstairs, and then as soon as the shit hit the fan downstairs, it's all fast edits and fast moves, just trying to amp up the energy as much as we could."
That was something that I was thinking a lot about, was how still the camera is upstairs in the present. In the past, the camera is very fluid, but then once you get into the basement...
Yeah, there's three different styles. There's just like the sticks, then the handheld, and then you have like the
steady cam.
One of my favorite shots in the top is just holding on that washer and dryer. Haven't looked up the symbolism of anything or if anything happens in the shot, but just that looming shot down the hall and it like holds there. There's so many shots like that just like, you're like, okay, can we move on? Like, can we move on from this?
Yeah. No, a lot of the scariest shots are the ones where nothing's happening for me. Yeah,
or just even when they what's his name? Keith? Poor little Keith in it, when like she just comes out of the like getting ready and he's just sitting there with the bottle of wine. Jump scare. But also poor baby's just trying to connect.
Okay, hot take.
Oh God.
Not a huge fan of Keith, but huge fan of Bill Skarsgård. Huge fan of the performance.
Yeah.
I was just like,
Oh no, Keith needs to like get it the fuck together.
Keith needs to get it together.
Rough.
Yeah.
He is a rough dude who needs to like check that you are a man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this girl, like, dead of night on this creepy ass street in a place that she hasn't been. And he's like,
he's gonna like
do you want wine?
Lecture her about how she can't like go through her life in fear. And he's like, I don't know. He's
or just point out, like, I know I made you tea and it was something you didn't watch me do. And it's okay that you didn't drink it. Keith, shut the fuck up.
You're creepy,
You're not
dudes.
making a case for yourself.
Which, like, it sounds like that was part of the intent. But I'm also just like, I don't know, like, white dude who's like starting an art collective by buying up like an entire block of this like historically black neighborhood.
Well, that's like the point is like the themes in this film are gentrification. It is just like moving through life as a male unaware because you don't have to live in fear. Like that's why I like this film so much, is because it's so, I wouldn't say subtly, but it does, like, in a not hit over the head way, confronts these topics. So, like, it's not the focus. It very much
is about real things.
Yeah. So I love Kreger for being like, no, men are idiots, and these are shitty people.
True. But I was like watching Keith say all of this shit, and I was just like yelling at the screen, like, like, kick this white boy out of there.
I know.
Like, he's being a dick.
Oh no, he'd be out so fast.
Yeah.
Like, so fast.
I don't know.
Also, like, I would just drive away.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think I'd stay.
I wouldn't stay. I absolutely wouldn't stay.
Also, sorry, Detroit.
Yeah.
And you can find a hotel.
Yeah.
False.
It's Detroit.
False.
It's Detroit.
You could literally go anywhere.
Yeah. There are other places to stay, I guarantee.
I'm sidetracking on this one. Sorry, guys. Me and Trev went to visit a family in Michigan, and his mom rented us this house, and it was an Airbnb, but like the old couple lived there still.
Did they live in the basement?
Might as well. I don't know what was going on in that basement. First floor. We were upstairs.
Okay, so this is already the plot of Barbarian.
Yes. So we walked in. There are, well, first off, he has like this dog, and it's just the guy at first, and there are dolls. Everywhere.
No.
Everywhere. And you walk up this creepy, and he's showing us around. He's like, pick your room. And I'm like, I'm picking the room with the least dolls in it.
The farthest from the dolls. Yeah.
And so, like, we were there, and we're like laughing. But I was like, we're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to die here.
Yeah.
I can't. So we like went to go visit family later that day. And then we drove back. And I was like, his mom was driving the car. I was in the passenger seat. We sent Trav in to get all of our luggage from upstairs because I was like, I can't stay here. I cannot do it. Yeah. But I felt so bad because they were a sweet old couple. But or like, were they?
Or were they?
I don't know.
Yeah. You don't know what tapes they have in the basement.
Yeah. People wrote in the guest book, like, had a great time staying here, all this stuff. Like, so quaint. And it was like a bed and breakfast, all this stuff.
And they're all like the same handwriting.
I know.
They're the ones who wrote it.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. And we went, and there was like the most atrocious smell of like bacon.
No.
Was it covering up the smell of human bacon? I don't know. There was something a little off about that bacon smell.
Bacon's usually such a pleasant smell.
It was not.
That's
it was
really
a weird
upsetting.
meat smell.
No, not a weird meat smell.
Anyways,
flashback to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre episode.
Yeah, like who knows what was in that basement? But honestly, like the fact that I went, absolutely fucking not, and I left. I booked it out of there. So, 100%. Anyways, just saying, trust your gut. Yep. Which is the whole point of this film. So, anyways, moving on. We're back on track. So talking about visuals still. Again, I mentioned how their tastes were kind of different, Kreger and Cooperstein. So Cooperstein said, quote, "We rediscovered the shot list multiple times through the process. We first talked about it generally, then in the office, then in the hotel room, and then we storyboarded, and it evolved again. Sometimes there would be POV shots where I thought we're milking this too much, but Kreger made the point that the audience would be more scared looking in the front of them at an empty, terrifying hallway, and then at the actor's face. I was wrong about that, so I'm glad he pushed for it. These shots make the movie. It was a really excellent collaboration." So I kind of feel like we talked about Reanimator and the cinematographer and director dynamic. I kind of feel like they had the same, like, they pushed and fought for the things
to be their best selves.
Yeah, I love I kind of love their relationship. I wish there were like interviews with the two of them. I couldn't find any.
That sounds like a really interesting working dynamic.
Yeah, I'd be curious. So obviously I want to talk about the lighting or the lack thereof that we have in this film.
It's a very dark film.
It's a very dark film, and very purposely very dark. So we obviously, a lot of the darkness takes place in the horrible underneath basement hallway things we have, which obviously created challenges with the camera movements that they wanted to do. So most of it was handheld by Cooperstein. And then the lighting. So Cooperstein said that he always hates in movies when there's like this other light source. And so they did play around with it. He did have some like backlights in the tunnel at some point, but he was just like, it just looked too fake for me. So he worked directly with the actors himself and kind of taught them how to light scenes. So he's like, if you hold the flashlight this way, it bounces off of this and then it will hit your face.
Mostly motivated lighting. That's cool.
But he like, I love that he blocked with the actors and like took the time out. But yeah, so motivated lighting we have. And then they shot, I don't know if you know what this camera is, but it's a Sony Venice.
Oh yeah,
is what they shot on.
Good camera.
Okay, cool. I tried to look up, like, is Sony Venice good for low light? Couldn't find an answer.
That's a choice that would make sense. Yeah. It's Black Magics are super popular for low lighting, but I'd say Sony Venice is like the next kind of step up from that.
Okay. Yeah, I tried to search it up, and then it was just like, here's all the places you could buy a Sony Venice. I'm like,
they're very expensive.
Yeah. I learned. So I thought that was kind of fun. And another kind of fun cinematography moment that we get, which I personally love to see in films, is the change of aspect ratio.
Oh yeah,
that we see. So the aspect ratio changing from the normal film to then when we do the flashbacks in the 80s. So it goes to that 4:3. So like the standard, and then so
I had to like go back to make sure that I was like, did that aspect ratio just change?
I always have to do that too, because sometimes we covered a film that. Did we cover a film on here that changed like that too? And I almost didn't.
I love it. Might have been one of the other Ty West ones.
Was it a Ty West one?
Yeah, I might have been Pearl. Hasn't it? I want to say that's my instinct, but
everyone's screaming at us. That's listening.
I don't know.
You guys, we don't have Google in front of us, so sorry.
Guys, we don't have memories.
Yeah, we definitely don't have that. We talk about these films. If you were to ask me to regurgitate any of this,
I like don't even remember what films we've covered at this point.
Same. Sorry, guys. So, you know how I mentioned earlier they had the American town. They didn't want to shoot because it looked too fake. Well, we do see a cameo with the flashback scene.
It felt very Edward Scissorhands.
That's what I wrote down too.
Oh, yeah.
The manicured lawns and stuff. Which actually, speaking of manicured lawns, the lawns on that set, they tried repeatedly to grow grass for it, which I'm like, use AstroTurf.
Yeah.
But they didn't want it to look super fake, so they tried to play with growing it and then doing fake. They ended up I think some of the only CG in this entire fucking film is the fucking grass in the flashback scenes because they couldn't perfect it.
Oh my god!
I'm like, AstroTurf totally would have worked.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Also would have been like period appropriate too.
Yeah.
Yeah. People were using AstroTurf. I think
it looked like it.
It looks like AstroTurf.
Wasn't everything fake back in
the
60s, 80s? So that whole kind of look of that part of the film was directly inspired by an Austrian horror film from 1983 called Angst.
Oh, I've heard of this. I haven't seen it, but I really want to watch it.
Yeah. It sounded familiar when I looked it up, but I didn't deep dive. So, for those who know, you know, I don't.
Angst.
I also found one of my sources for like this little next part was an article from panoramaaudiovisual.com with Sam Daly of the post-production kind of like company called Light Iron. They were responsible for the color grading of the film, which I've never talked about on the podcast before.
Light Iron, I
didn't look them up. Sorry.
I want to say they might be a sponsor of our local film festival because I recognize the name.
Yeah.
I will fact check that.
There were so many. This article was great, so I would say if you're interested in this kind of stuff, it was a lot of detail that Sam went into. But I pulled out some things. Cool. Sam Daly, he admitted to not having much experience in the horror genre, but did previously work with Cooperstein, our cinematographer, and said for this film, the mood was established with Cooperstein's lighting and production design, with his job to interpret those visuals into the final look. And so Sam said to nail down the visuals, he initially showed Kreger and Cooperstein like different interpretations of the story, some which were a lot more horror-based, and then some were a lot more traditional. And both Zachs gravitated towards the more traditional route of lighting. And Sam said to that, quote, "I think that's partly why the look of the film stands out, because we're not announcing to the audience that this is a horror movie via the color grade."
That's one of the things that is like one of my biggest pet peeves about modern horror films is I feel like there's like a horror color scheme that just gets repeated over and over again.
Yeah, everything
like
looks the same.
Yeah, there's like a lot of like grungy yellows and like deep blues, and I'm like, it's fine, but like I want more.
Horror. Yeah. Well, that's why I think we're in like this fun experimental phase of horror
more
and like
colorful horror.
Yeah. Well, even I Saw the TV Glow, like we talked about, like that doesn't feel like a horror, like nothing indicate, like it does indicate horror, but also in this very like fresh,
very different way. Yeah. Which also the you know the shot in this film where you're kind of going down the hallway and you see the purple light coming from like the nursery room?
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, I saw the TV Glow.
Right, I know. Yeah, especially I thought about that after, because I had watched this before I watched the TV Glow. And so this was my first rewatch after. Yeah. Yeah. And just like the sounds of everything too. It's so comforting and eerie and depressing at the same time.
I think that like purple light coming down the hallway was one of my favorite shots of like the whole film. It was really really satisfying.
Yeah, I love some good lighting like that. That's why yours was so fun to watch. So moving on a little bit to special effects. Oh, actually I already said this. I said the grass part. I wrote it down. So
which reminds me of In the Tall Grass, actually.
I know, just the CG grass.
CG like grass, yeah.
Imagine if it was like that. Crossover. So among the grasshopper. So among the practical effects was obviously the mother, our girl, our queen. Yes. Poor baby. So she was created with I wrote Mold Life Sculpt Gel and liquid latex from Mayron. So that's the same company I can never fucking pronounce. I have like my blood splatter from. So you would think that she would be like a full bodysuit. So that's kind of like what it gives or what people would think. But she was not a full bodysuit. She was kind of
bits and pieces.
Yeah. So Matthew was basically essentially naked. Amazing. And they kind of just put the pieces where they wanted them. Kreger
had so much fun.
Oh my god, Kreger was like, we called it him being ass out.
Amazing.
Yep. And so they actually experimented. Speaking of ass, they also experimented with making a cast of his butt. But then when
I so hope he got to keep that. I hope that's like
I know I should have fucking honestly that would have been what I would have texted.
Like, do you still have the ass cast? I can text him afterwards. I will text her during our break and ask.
Yeah, so he had to wear this like butt prosthetic. Didn't end up working out. They didn't end up using it, so they scrapped that. But I thought it was really funny that they created that. They're like, we'll cover you. Just kidding.
Just in case.
Kreger also asked Matthew to shave his legs, arms, and eyebrows, to which Matthew said a big old hell no.
Really?
He goes, I did Veet, which like I'm assuming is like Nair, my entire body, which was a fun experience that I've never had before. But I asked if I could not shave my eyebrows because it was going to be covered in prosthetics anyway.
That's very fair.
Yeah,
that's very fair.
Don't fucking like. What the fuck is the point?
Why do I need to shave my eyebrows then?
Yeah, it's like I'm good. Like if it pulls it off, fine. Yeah, but no. Oh yeah, Warren. Y'all, can I shout you out, Warren? Can I call you out?
Oh my god,
Warren accidentally shaved an eyebrow.
Just one eyebrow. Has it grown back in fully now?
It looks like it from here. I can see a brow.
Janelle's pencil.
Oh,
my god, amazing.
Pencil? Yeah, that's hey, half of this thing is fake. I only have eyebrows to here. I have half my eyebrows just drawn.
I have a lot of eyebrow. I just like to make them scarier.
Yeah. I just started shaving mine off. I love a big brow.
Yep.
But yeah, sorry.
We got so off track.
You guys, listen, last week was really hard for me, and this is my fun place.
Yeah.
And then we get to go try cocktails after this. So I'm having a great day.
Yeah.
So prosthetics, everything. Obviously there's some issues I wrote, but there were 3 specific divas that proved to be problematic on this set.
The 2 tits and something else.
The Merkin. Yes.
Oh my god, I was right.
I mean, I almost did the two divas, but I was like, oh, there's a third.
Yeah.
We got to shout out each one of the boobs. So those three ladies,
they're sisters, not twins.
So why, you may ask? Because wearing those things on set can be sweaty.
Oh.
So Matthew said, quote, they knew they'd
having those things on set can be sweaty.
Yeah. So they knew they'd be, so like the Merkin and the tits would be the most convincing right at the beginning of the day. Same. when I'm stepping out of the makeup trailer. So as soon as I start moving or sweating, that's when you'll start to see like the seams and the close-up work. So they would make sure to do those things first, and shoot like any kind of like wides at the end of the day.
That makes sense.
When the girls are a little sad and tired, which like relate. And so they did learn, so the crotch piece for them was the least convincing. I was like, this whole thing, I like made a note. I was like, I can't believe I have to say this on air.
Yep.
So Matthew kind of says like, if you he said if when you jump into the pit, you can use your arm to cover your crotch, that would be great. That was a note that he got from the directors. So there, if you pay attention to movements, I'm sure they edited a lot out and tried to choreograph, but there's just a lot of him trying to hide certain oopsies because he's just a sweaty lady.
Aren't we all?
Yep. And God, why do I write my notes like this? And speaking of tits,
incredible.
You know the mother's hair that's on the baby bottle?
Yes.
That you see, which makes me
It's so gross.
actually want to die. I have to do like hair checks in food. I mean, dog hair is different, but a long hair will shut me down. I will not be able to eat that food for like a week. It is just, it's tough. It's a tough spot for me to be in. I'm sure all of you can relate. So that was initially a mistake and they kind of ran with it. So
that's like one of the scariest things in the movie.
I said like a happy gross accident. So when they shot that, there was like a piece of the wig that got on it, but Kreger liked how gross it was so much that he ended up adding more, and then they shot with it.
Incredible.
Yeah. But like, you got to think, if you're down there, like it does add this element of like, I don't know, it wouldn't have been the same. Like, it's already gross, right? Like, where is she getting this milk? Question mark. Where's she getting the food to feed
Is
them?
it human milk?
I don't know.
I need to know if it's human milk.
I mean, I don't know.
And if not, then what kind of animal is down there?
You gotta think, though, isn't there that, like, with, like, some people can, like, produce milk even though they didn't have a child because they're, like, hormones? Like,
it's a thing.
So maybe, I don't know, that poor little baby's watching those, like, shows and stuff. Did you raise your hand? Travis, tell us about the facts.
She used to say she didn't have a child.
Oh, she could have had a child.
She probably did.
Okay.
She probably did.
Ugh, why do we let a man speak?
Get out of here, Keith.
I'm gonna end, or not end, because we're gonna get into critics, but I have a bunch of Easter eggs and things you may have missed, or like little nods to other things in this. So I'm just gonna kind of run through them,
please.
So when Tess steps out of the house, which I caught it this time, in the morning that like first night, she across the street you'll see like a house, and there's graffiti on the house that says "Death from Below." Which I'm like, I don't know if that homeless man did it or
that's
like...
That's very Candyman. That's very Candyman.
Yeah. Oh my God, it is. So you can note that next time for watching. It's very hard to read, but it is there. We also have Frank wearing the boiler suit and his hair slicked back. So obviously like a nod to Michael Myers. We have...
Should put that together.
Yeah.
Also like another case of like this... because we've talked about how often there's like a scary gas station employee in a horror film, and he's like wearing one of, I think it's like a gas station suit, the jumpsuit that he's wearing.
Gives that. Yeah, just like a little boiler suit.
Boiler suit. Yeah.
So nod to Michael Myers. When Justin Long is looking through Keith's suitcase, we see a copy of Jane Eyre, which if you don't know anything about that book, it depicts like an insane woman who's locked away, just like the mother in the film. So it's kind of, there's lots of like, if you pay attention, it's telling you everything. We also have, which I don't want to spoil it too much because you haven't seen Jeepers Creepers, maybe you know, but Justin Long's character in this is killed when the mother claws his eyeballs out, which is a direct response to Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, also, I'm sorry, I'm texting Emma to ask about the prosthetic.
I was like,
that's
what
what this
texting?
Hello, I normally would never text during an episode. It's to get information, I promise.
God, yes, please. The next one, kind of, we're moving into music of this. So when we first meet Justin Long's character, he's singing that amazing song,
so
Riki Tiki
good.
Tabby, which if you listen closely, it's about how you have to kill the snakes yourself without help from an official institution. So in the same way that Tess has to rescue AJ and then kill the mother without the help from the fucking police.
Yeah, which that was one of the parts that was the most effective to me, was how shitty the police are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So horrifying.
Yeah, that part really, I'm like, that's actually
that's
how
real.
it would be.
Yep.
And kind of going along with the songs, this is where it gets a little bit dark, and I didn't know the lore of this song, but I fucking love this song. Now it has a whole different meaning for me, and I don't know if I'll be able to enjoy it anymore. So the song at the end, Be My Baby from the Ronettes, was written and produced. Me too. Was written and produced by Phil Spector, who was married.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
Yeah, hold. Those who know. So he was married to the lead singer of the Ronettes, Ronnie Spector, from 1968 until their divorce in 1974. In her 1990 memoir that she has, which has the best fucking names, it's called Be My Baby, How I Survived Mascara, Miniskirts, and Madness, or My Life as a Fabulous Ronette.
What an icon.
I know. It's so good. She's like, what you all want to hear, I guess. Fuck you. So she talks about how she was basically imprisoned in Phil Spector's mansion and underwent psychological torment for years. But with the help of her mother, she was able to escape barefoot from the mansion in 1972. Also, Phil's two sons had made claims that he held them captive as well for years, with one of the sons describing himself as coming from a very sick and twisted, dysfunctional family. So the song Be My Baby kind of hits on like
so many layers.
Levels.
Did not think about that.
If you don't know the lore, it hits.
Yeah.
But if you know the lore, it just hits.
Yeah.
So I thought that was an incredible use of like,
what a great
song at the end of it. I love a good song that ends a film. So as we know, we're running out into critics and reaction. We know it made 45 million. It did great, but not only did the audience love it, critics loved it as well. So it premiered at the San Diego Comic-Con in July of 2022 and was released in September 2022. It has a 92 on Rotten Tomatoes from critics, a 70 from audience. So
Interesting.
But maybe they had kind of the same. Again, I think a lot of good horror came out around that time, so I'm okay. I'm okay with it.
It's also, I think, any horror film that is like not what you expect going in is going to have a negative reaction from some people. Yeah, I think.
And I'll jump ahead actually with you saying that. So oh my gosh, where did I put it? Oh yeah, they had there was an alternate trailer release on September 23rd, so kind of like after it was already out in theaters. They had a fun little different trailer that they put out, which was basically like featuring it as Justin Long's new movie before like showing all the horrific clips and stuff too. So they kind of had some fun with really marketing after the fact to kind of like poke fun at what they were doing.
Amazing.
But yeah, so 92 from critics, 70 from audiences, and critics really liked the plot, of course, and like the suspense of it all. They also really liked the satirical elements. So like I talked to you about the gentrification, the abuse, the toxic masculinity we see. And I have a little fun story from Richard Brake, who plays Frank.
Oh, cool.
Apparently, he shared this story on his Instagram back after the film was released. So he was in a theater watching it for himself. I love that he just like went in there. And behind him sat like a group of teenagers. So they were like terrified the whole film, whatever. They're going to leave. And like, as you do sometimes if you leave early, shame, watch the credits, wait for the house lights.
Always watch the credits. Yeah.
Give that crew some respect. So they went to go leave and they were using their phone flashlights and leaving, and they accidentally caught his face and they just like screamed and ran out of the
that's amazing.
And he was like, that was just like the highlight for me that I did such a good job.
Kiss. Yeah. That's so good.
Yep. And yeah, I just shout out to Companion. So that came out in January 31st. It's kind of the little team
companion.
It's the companion to Barbarian. Yeah. I have not seen it yet. I'm very excited to see it. And with that is my light notes on Barbarian.
Oh my god. It did make me like it more.
A little bit?
It did make me like it more.
Yeah.
I think the question that I am left with, the thing that is plaguing me is like, if the goal is, or like if the seed idea was like women need to trust their guts about the violence of men, which like love that, very much can see that as the seed idea here. But the thing that I was struggling with was like, it feels to me like Mother is like one of the victims of this situation.
She absolutely is.
And it's complicated to me that she then is also like the big bad that gets killed at the end.
I see it as the seed is, and this is my interpretation, because she ignores every fucking red flag. I think she learns at the end, I should have trusted that bitch instead. I think this was a lesson, and if she does this again, she's never fucking trusting a man, because she tries to say fucking AJ, who deserves fuck him. Yeah. So my thing is that she reached that journey.
That helps.
By the end.
That helps a lot. Also, I just got a response from Emma.
My God. What'd you ask her?
I asked, does Matt still have any of the prosthetics? And she says, no, I don't think so. He was gifted a hairy baby bottle.
Love! That's so good.
That's amazing.
I'm like, I love that you asked. Yeah. That's so cute.
She says, mostly fan gifts, nothing from literal set, but hairy baby bottle.
Yeah. That's so amazing.
Honestly, even better. Almost.
Yeah. We should see if I really would love if he did like a little shout out. So maybe I have time today. Maybe we could text and ask. So you guys might know. You might have already heard something.
Might have already happened.
I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry to have texted on air.
Oh my God, no. I was just like,
hope it was worth it.
Excuse me. I forgot that we had just talked about that. Me struggling to get through my notes. But yeah, so that's how I interpreted it. Because she pisses me off a lot of the movie until the end. And I think ultimately though she had to like put her out of her misery to a point.
That makes me like it more. That does make me like it more.
Yeah, that's my interpretation of it. I feel like that's
thank you, Al.
But I don't know.
Good job turning me around.
Okay, you're so welcome.
Yay!
On that note, we'll take a break and then we'll walk with some fire.
Let's walk with some fire. We'll be right back. And we're back. And I'm realizing as I'm sitting here and looking at our curtains how much this looks like the Red Room.
Yeah.
I hadn't put that together.
We should like let him go to be like flat behind us.
Oh, we should have. Do you want to?
I don't know how to put it back up. Great. Love that. If we ever need to change this, we're fucked. Those are delicately
love
balanced
that for us. That's a little terrifying. What happened? Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Don't want to think
There's just
about
one rickety nail on that wall that's disintegrating behind there.
Okay, but imagine if we painted this the like black and white zigzags.
That'd be sick.
That'd be really cool. It'd be incredibly visually distracting, but it'd be so cool.
For Morgan Grip, we can do something like that.
Ooh.
Thoughts?
I love it. You ready for a tee up tid?
Yeah. We're just jumping in. Got it.
I mean,
thrust it in the Lynch first.
Excuse me. Listen.
As I like it,
it's
to be fair.
David Lynch. I don't think we need
I go
that
where he
much
tells me.
warm up, you know?
Yeah, give me a tip.
Okay, so I found a story at the beginning of my research, and I was like, this is hilarious. This is going to be my tidbit. But I can't find the second half of this story. Oh, shit. And it wasn't until the very last article that I read for all of my notes and the very last paragraph of the very last article that I found the piece of information I was looking for.
Persistence.
Yeah, it was so satisfying, Al. I can't tell you. So, famously troubled set in a few different ways. We're going to talk about some of them. And when I say that, like, I think all the actors had a good time. They're just... it kind of feels like it was cursed a little bit, perhaps.
Yeah. Some directors just have that.
Some directors just have that. And David Lynch is definitely one of those directors. But there was one injury on this film that I didn't know about. It happened to David Lynch.
Oh.
Right before the start of production.
Oh, no.
So, David Lynch, you know the song that Laura... Well, I don't want to give that part away yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to decide what the best way to tell this story is.
You're like me with like hiding Bulgaria.
I know. I'm like, do I tell you Bulgaria yet? Okay, so I'm gonna tell you in the order that I found out this information.
Okay, perfect.
So what I find out is that David Lynch, right before production starts, is doing something with Angelo Badalamenti, and Angelo makes, and obviously that's the composer.
Okay.
So. He and Angela, I'm sorry, guys. I'm really deep in the David Lynch-averse right now.
Idiot on Idiot Island, not knowing that. I'm definitely not on Idiot Island.
So, Lynch and Badalamenti, his composer, are doing something, and Badalamenti cracks Lynch up, and he cracks Lynch up so bad that David Lynch gives himself a hernia and has it for the entirety of production and is like nursing this. And I was like, what on earth did Angelo Badalamenti do to make
imagine?
him laugh that hard?
Also, like, I would love to see him laugh that hard.
Oh my God, right? Like, making David Lynch laugh that hard, you've got to be like, I'm going to heaven now.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I can rest easy.
yeah, I'm a good person. So you can imagine, I find that out and I'm like, I have to know.
Yeah.
Can't find the information.
Sure.
And finally I find it from an interview with Badalamenti.
Oh,
So
okay.
we go back to the source.
Yeah.
You know the song that Laura's listening to when she's lying in her bedroom, like smoking?
Yeah.
With like her ashtray on her bed and she's like
Yeah.
rocking out. It's such an iconic scene.
Yeah.
So that song, it's I think called I Feel a Laugh Coming On, text by David Lynch, and recorded by Angelo Badalamenti in
Okay.
this like spoken word style. And it was the fact that Angelo had gone into this recording telling David Lynch, I think I can do like David Lynch had given him these lyrics and was like, do something with this. And Angelo's like, let me try this as like an old school rap.
Oh no.
And Angelo Badalamenti has never rapped before, and you can tell.
Yeah.
And so he goes into the recording booth and he's like looking at David, and David's smiling and he's like getting more and more into it and going harder and harder, and David starts laughing. And he looks up and David is just like on the floor.
Oh God.
He rapped so badly that David Lynch gave himself a hernia.
No.
Isn't that amazing?
He's like, I'm gonna retire
Yep,
now.
Yep,
That's
I'm
never
done.
coming out of my mouth.
Yep.
Again. Oh no, that's so embarrassing.
And they used it in the film.
Well, David was like, this is fucking amazing.
Yeah, he's like, it made me laugh so hard it gave me a hernia. Of course
Yeah.
we're using it.
Oh my God, now I have to like re-listen to it. Oh my God, ow.
It's incredible. And knowing that makes the song so much funnier. 'Cause, like,
Yeah.
it's weird, but you take it in context as like, it's a David Lynch movie. There's gonna be some weird music going on.
Absolutely.
And then you start listening closely once you
gotta
know
listen
that.
closer.
And it's just this like middle-aged Italian dude being like, I feel a laugh coming on, man.
I gotta, okay, when we leave here, we have to put this on. That's our exit music.
It's so I'm gonna give
fuck.
myself a
Yeah, I was
hernia.
gonna say, don't get a hernia, please. That's so amazing.
I just wanted to
Oh,
start us there
fuck.
on a high note,
Yeah.
because this is a really dark movie and it's only gonna get darker from
Yeah.
here.
It's not a, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fun ride, this one.
Oh my God. Oh, I have a quote from David Lynch about the experience, actually.
you did
I
find
forgot. So David says, quote, Angelo said, let me give this a try. So I went over all the lyrics with him and went into the recording booth, and Angelo came to life in this booth. I was with the engineer, Artie Polimas, and I was laughing so hard that something exploded. It was like a light bulb blew up in my stomach, and that was the end of my stomach wall.
You doing it in his voice? Like, I'm like, yeah, no, that's exactly, like, that would kill me. Oh, David.
Yeah, I love him so
R.I.P.
much.
man. God, what a dude. What a dude.
What a man. The man, the myth.
I'm glad he was having
Lynch.
so much fun. The Lynch.
Truly. So Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me from 1992.
92. Right.
I forgot to update my notes, so it still says 1997 or 1977 from the last film.
Oh
we
my
did, but
God,
that's
no.
not right. It's from 1992. There are a few different taglines, but the only like halfway decent one, and the one that's on the poster, is "In a town like Twin Peaks, no one is innocent,"
Mm-hmm.
which like
Yeah,
it gets the
Twin
point
Peaks.
across. But you could also go with David Lynch's summation of the movie
God.
from the Criterion Roundtable that he did with the cast in like 2012.
Yeah.
Where he just kind of turns to the camera and goes, you know, they don't rush out and get tickets for incest, do they? So,
No, David. No,
they
they don't.
sure don't. So, Twin Peaks subtitle, they don't rush out and get tickets for incest.
That would sell some tickets.
That would sell some tickets. This script is co-written by David Lynch and Robert Engels, who was one of the producers on the TV series. That's why the name is familiar. And I think it's worth noting because Lynch oftentimes works as a sole writer. There are exceptions, but it's interesting to see how his tone kind of changes when he has a collaborator.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's people's biggest critique of this one.
Yeah, which... Yeah, there's, I think everybody knows this film was really badly received at the time it was released.
Oh, yeah, atrociously.
Like, so badly. People have come around, but moving into cast and crew, we don't have nearly enough time for the full cast.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
There's also a whole lot of characters who were originally in the movie whose parts got cut from the TV show, which, if you're into this movie, you can also go watch Twin Peaks: The Missing Pieces, which is an hour and a half of deleted scenes from this film. An hour and a half. And that's not even all the deleted scenes, because, spoiler alert, the first cut of this film clocked in at like about 4.5 hours. Yeah. Yeah. So
that would have been a wild.
So a lot of characters get cut, is the point.
Jesus.
But of course we have to start with our absolute queen, Cheryl Lee as Laura Palmer.
Oh, she's so good.
She is like maybe the best ever. Like this performance,
so mesmerizing.
The level of physical and like psychological commitment that she gives to this role is like nothing else I've ever seen. Like the only thing I can think of to compare it to is Isabella Gianni in Possession.
Ooh.
But this is like working in a much more subdued register, I think. And so it's like
the scene where she's in her bedroom, they're smoking, she's upside down in the chair, and just that like
I used that in my lookbook.
Oh, her eyes. Yeah. Also the slight dilation when she says certain things. I'm like, were they like,
how did you do that?
Were they like putting something in front of her?
Yeah.
Like I was so that shot was so fucking beautiful, and she's so perfect. And like just the hold that
and
she
her
had.
her ability to like not blink, not breathe, like just for a shot is just like technically just incredible.
I was thinking about all of those things in that moment, but she's a star.
The best. She's a star.
Yeah,
she's also the Good Witch in Wild at Heart. Obviously another Lynch collaboration. She's in the John Carpenter movie Vampires. She's in Winter's Bone. She's Ellie on One Tree Hill. But of course I think a lot of people have heard this story, but to throw it out there in case you haven't, she was originally cast in Twin Peaks, which was very much her big break, off of a publicity photo for a play that she was in. She had no film training or theater or television training at all. She was only a theatrical actress. She was from, I think, Seattle, was like working in Washington, and like was just supposed to be, she was originally brought on for 4 days of work, and it was just to be a dead girl, just to be a body, and to shoot the flashback sequence that you see, the picnic scene at the beginning of Twin Peaks with Donna, and she did so beautifully in it that David Lynch was like, we've got to find, he like gives her a call and is like, will you come back to set? And she's like, David, I'm dead. And David, I'm dead. And he's like, don't you worry about that, we'll figure something out. And so he brings her back. He creates the character of Maddie, which is like her cousin, who's also played by her. And then that's kind of where a lot of this movie comes from, is this sense of like there is so much more in the character of Laura Palmer and in Cheryl Lee as an actress that deserves exploration. Which thank God it got it.
I was going to say, a lot of my memories, I've only seen this one other time, and it was right after I finished watching Twin Peaks. I went right into the movie, and so this was like 2012 is when
so
like 2012 is when I first watched Twin Peaks.
And this was your first time going back to Firewalk with Me?
So
interesting.
I forgot how much I remembered.
I love that,
because she's so fucking great. A lot of my memory is her. And so I was like, okay,
it's amazing how many just individual shots are just like crystallized in my mind from this movie.
For sure.
And they're all of her.
I thought it was a lot from the show, but because I a few years out from watching this show too, so I want to revisit everything again. It's usually my fall time show for some reason. It feels
very, very autumnal.
Color palette, but I'm so glad that they did this because she's so fucking great in it.
Well, and also, David Lynch, shocker, was not happy with how Twin Peaks ended and needed to kind of do a little bit of retconning, shall we say. So we'll get into that in a second. But we have Ray Wise as Leland Palmer, who I think gives just an incredible performance. And every time I watch this, I'm like, I cannot imagine what it was like for that actor to do this, to go to that place. Because he, in interviews, He's so dark, and he in interviews just seems like such a gentle, like he's very giggly.
He
seems
gives,
very
he gives it like he'd be giggly.
Yeah, like very just like seems like extremely soft spoken and gentle and kind, and like I can't imagine what it was like for him to do this so well.
Yeah, the two of them are he also looked like they play
father and daughter really well.
He actually looked like he spawned her.
Yes, yeah, which is so part of why it's so creepy. Yeah. And same with the mom too, who we're getting to.
Yeah, I do feel like that is their
family.
Child.
Yeah, so well cast.
She's so great.
So Ray, he's also Leon Nash in RoboCop. He's the voice of Commissioner Gordon in Batman: The Killing Joke.
Amazing.
He's Marvin in Fresh Off the Boat. He's Taggart in Jeepers Creepers 2, and he's also in an episode of GRRM's Beauty and the Beast series, so a little shout out there. But he's also, the thing I know him most for, besides this, is Robin Sr. from How I Met Your Mother.
Oh. I've never seen that show.
Yep.
Oh, amazing.
And then we have Grace Zabriskie as Sarah Palmer. She's also in Wild at Heart. She's in The Grudge. She's in Child's Play 2, so we get some horror crossover. She's Mrs. Ross on Seinfeld. She's in the lesbian classic Fried Green Tomatoes, which I love.
I love them. That
It's
was
so
my
good.
childhood, and we all know why now.
Yep. Big time. Can't believe we haven't talked about this before.
Yeah, that's actually kind of wild.
That's a
like,
huge comfort movie for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
We should pitch that for Soft Butch Blues
We
sometime.
should. Yeah.
She's also Alina in my beloved My Own Private Idaho. So this is the point where the David Lynch universe and the My Own Private Idaho universe crossover. Love. We have Mädchen Amick as Shelley Johnson. She's also in Riverdale. She's Wendy on Witches of East End. She's Dina in Longmire. She's Duchess Catherine in Gossip Girl. Wow. We have our number one Reanimator fan, David Bowie, as Philip Jeffries.
With the American accent, did he not look like Sam Neill? It kind of blew my mind this time. And I only say that because we watched Possession, and he looks like they could play brothers.
Oh my god, that's wild.
It kind of blew my mind.
You're totally right, and I've never made that.
It's only after
before.
watching Possession I've never noticed it.
Whoa. Yeah. I also put a pin in that accent because I have a fun fact about it when we come back around to it. Obviously, Bowie is Jareth in Labyrinth. He's Thomas in The Man Who Fell to Earth, which was shot here. He's Tesla in The Prestige, which I forgot about. Oh. He's Andy Warhol in Basquiat. He's John in The Hunger, which I want to cover sometime. Queer vampire fun stuff. We get a brief appearance from Heather Graham here as Annie Blackburn. She's obviously Roller Girl from Boogie Nights. She's in The Hangover, Scream 2, Swingers, Drugstore Cowboy. She's in Gregor Aki's Nowhere. We also get Chris Isaac of Wicked Game and Baby Did a Bad Bad Thing fame as Special Agent Chester Desmond. We get Kiefer Sutherland from Lost Boys as Sam Stanley, Harry Dean Stanton from Repo Man and Paris, Texas as Carl Rod, and of course, the man himself opens the movie, David Lynch, as Regional Bureau Chief Gordon Cole, who's named after a character from Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which there's like a lot of Sunset Boulevard kind of references scattered throughout David Lynch's career.
I haven't seen that one. I know. Travis. I gotta go down like a Lynch. I feel like when summer hits. Listen, y'all. I'm out here looking at rocks. I don't know what to say. Leave me alone.
Oh my god. Okay, I've got to move on from that fast.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
so
get
sorry.
angry. So this got greenlit pretty much right after Twin Peaks was canceled, like very close on the heels of that.
That's
largely,
wild.
Of course, because the ending was so unsatisfying. People were furious and wanted something better.
Yeah.
I love the final episode of season 2, but it goes very off the rails in the middle, and I think there's no denying that. And so the project was announced 1 month after the cancellation of the series. Oh, so super fast.
Close, but yeah, that's wild.
And then films within a year of that announcement. So they're just
they're hopping
fast.
On that train.
Yeah. Which
Smart.
makes sense because you want to do that, and we're going to come to it later. But a lot of people think it still wasn't fast enough, and that's part of why this reception wasn't as good. That the kind of Twin Peaks allure was already fading by 92 in this hit theaters, which kind of makes sense. But so, initially, the production company behind the series, Aaron Spelling Productions, is kind of weighing continuing the series and like picking it up for a third season and paying for it themselves. But Lynch is like, it's going to cost $500K an episode, and they're like, no.
Not doing that.
Not doing that. So Lynch instead asks to make this the first of 3 films in a 3-film deal that he signs with this French production company, Sibi 2000. However, this film ends up getting kind of sort of split from that deal, because the initial deal was it basically gets split because they don't want to give it as much money as that deal was for. Because his initial deal was $70 million for 3 films.
Oof.
Quite a nice cushy deal there. But do you want to guess what the budget of this actually was? Because you would assume based on that it would be like a little bit over 20.
Yeah. I feel like they gave him like 15.
Good guess. They gave him different figures, say between 10 and 12.
Okay. So yeah, they were like, here you go. Take this or leave it.
Which, by comparison, he made Blue Velvet for 5. And that was like less than a decade before. So he's got more resources to work with this time. Sure. But less than a lot of his other films from that same period. And kind of just going off of that deal with Sibi, also produces Lost Highway and The Straight Story. Oh, okay. So those are the others that kind of come from this collaboration. And Lynch describes the project as, quote, my cherry pie present to the fans of the show. However, one that's wrapped in barbed wire. Which feels like a tattoo image. I was like a cherry pie wrapped in barbed wire. Somebody's got to get that. Somebody has that, I'm sure. Good. Yeah.
Be my Twin Peaks tattoo.
Yeah. Get like Laura Palmer's heart locket. Yeah. Get 2 halves, you get 1 half. I get the
yeah. Oh my god.
It's like a little podcast tattoo. So moving into the writing, I'm not gonna touch here much on the deleted scenes because I didn't have time to watch most of them. I watched a couple. Did not watch all hour and a half of what's been released, but there's a ton of stuff. Most of what gets cut is upbeat stuff because David Lynch. Yeah.
I mean,
think about the movie this is.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad.
Yeah,
that got cut.
There's one hilarious one where I think I want to say it's Norwegian that Leland is trying to teach them. He's like trying to teach Sarah and Laura like a couple words in a different language, and they all just start hysterically laughing around the dinner table. Yeah. It's wild.
Oh, amazing.
Well, yeah, there's some very
moment, yeah.
They're fun to watch. I don't think they fit in the film.
Yeah.
And it's very like, if you're gonna cut anything, you're gonna cut the happy stuff. Yeah. But that's why we lose so many characters from the series, which is also part of why people are mad, because everybody has their favorites, and very few of those favorites show up here. And one of them is cast as a different person. So which we'll also talk about. But anyway. So go watch Twin Peaks: The Missing Pieces if you want. Obviously, more than half of what they shot got cut. And a lot of this was kind of a bittersweet process for David, I think, because he really wanted as many of the characters to come back as possible, but it just wasn't possible. He overshot, and he was also like, my whole goal here is to focus on Laura's final days.
Sure.
And those things are ultimately a distraction from it. And so he's trying to walk this really fine line between wanting to give the fans their cherry pie and also not wanting you to have to watch the whole series in order to understand it, which I don't think he succeeded at. I do think you need to watch the series to really get this movie. I say this in part because I watched it with my partner, who has not watched any of Twin Peaks, and she was miserable.
Yeah, I don't think Trav knew what the fuck was going on. Did you know what was going on?
Any of Twin Peaks?
I've seen like the first 2 episodes.
Okay, yeah. So no.
I started him on that journey. Did you know what was going on? You fell asleep, so.
That tracks.
Yeah. The finger point.
Yeah, perfect.
So, definitely watch the series.
You need to watch the series.
Even being far out from the series, too. My brain was trying to it did kind of come back to me, like the film, but it was, I would have loved a refresh.
Me too. Well, and it's interesting because I first watched this in like 2020, in between watching season 1 and season 2.
People say to watch it between, there's the 3 seasons, right? I looked it up online too, because I was trying to give myself refreshers while watching it, and people suggest like between 2 and 3 is a good place to watch it too.
That's what most people recommend. Yeah. I did not do that. I watched it before season 2 because I got too excited. Yeah. And I was like, this will be fine. Like, I love the weirder Lynch is my favorite Lynch. I don't feel like I need to
understand.
Yeah, I don't need to get it. I'm happy to just go along with the vibes, and I loved it when I first watched it. Yeah. But But coming back and watching it after having seen season 2 was a completely different experience. And I think so much of that is just because so much of what this film is doing is building a contrast to the series. And on like a level that has absolutely nothing to do with plot, if you don't know what like the town of Twin Peaks feels like, then you're not going to get how gross the town of Deer Meadow is by comparison. And like there's so many things like that where it's like this is like the second half of a puzzle, and without the first half you may be able to enjoy it, but you're not going to see all of the resonances. And it's not going to emotionally hit the same way.
It's like finally getting to like, you know, like, there's been like a locked door this whole time while watching this show, and you finally get to unlock that door, and you get to walk down those stairs and like see
all the darkest shit that's in there. And that's part of why I love this film so much, is that it is so like unrelentingly dark.
Oh, you don't get a breath.
There's no breathers, and I love it. I mean, I've said before,
it's almost super stimulating.
Yeah, and like I've said before, my favorite kind of horror is sad horror.
Yeah,
this is the saddest horror movie you will ever watch.
Yes,
like
it's tough. Yeah,
it's tough, and I
know it's so great.
So I got a little bit off track there. Not surprising, but obviously Twin Peaks the series is co-created by Mark Frost, who gets a producer credit here, but is not involved in the writing, largely because he wanted to make a sequel to the series and Lynch wanted to make a prequel. Again, mainly because he was so fascinated by Laura and he wanted to dig deeper into that. And you got to go back for that. Later on, Frost kind of comes around and goes on to kind of complement the nonlinear structure and basically says it allows the film to be both a prequel and a sequel, which it is. It kind of like wraps around
it does.
The time.
Yeah, you kind of get some answers.
It clears some mysteries up.
Yeah.
But I think after all of their tension working on the TV series together, they kind of just needed a break from their working relationship, and that was probably for the best. So he basically got, I don't want to call it a vanity credit, but like he wasn't that involved.
Got it.
So moving on to kind of themes, approach, history. Obviously, well, let's see, what do I want to go to first? Yeah, okay. So the major material being worked through here is incest. Yeah. And that is something that Lynch has spoken very openly about kind of really wanting to explore this sensitively and also wanting to do justice by survivors. And that's something that really struck me as I was going through interviews with him preparing for this. I was like, I don't think I have ever seen David Lynch talk this openly about what a film is about.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
He doesn't do that famously.
Yeah.
His whole thing is like, I hate it when people ask me to talk about the film because the film is the talking.
I was gonna say, yeah, it kind of ruins the allure of what, like these like weird fucked up dreamscapes he makes. So,
but
I didn't realize he talked about it that much.
He really does. And so I've got a couple quotes in a second here, but like a lot of what I think he's playing with here, and part of what he felt the need to kind of go back to from the original series, is that the way it gets framed in season 2, spoiler alert, everybody, Laura Palmer dies and it's her dad who kills her. I
thought you were just gonna say Laura Palmer dies.
Yeah, just that's it. Guess what?
Spoiler, she's dead. As if that's not the only thing people know.
If that's not in episode 1.
Yeah.
So obviously we find out in the series that it's Leland who's responsible, but the series kind of frames it like Leland is possessed by the demon of Bob, and it's kind of like, it kind of takes the blame off of him.
Yeah.
And a lot of what Lynch wanted to go back and do was make something that complicates that and makes it a lot more like, there are these supernatural elements and there is still the Red Room and there is still Bob, but at the same time, all of that is coming from the horror of like the evil is inside the house.
Right. I kind of saw him as like this caricature that was created by the two of them to like separate oneself, like on both sides.
Yeah, like this is something that they've created together to give another face to this evil.
It's just easier to digest.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, which like that's how trauma works.
Oh, truly.
And part of why I think this film was so ahead of its time because not a lot of people were talking about that's how trauma works in 1992.
It's such an interesting way to have it.
Yeah, and so it all kind of, there's so much material here that is really a condemnation of like the American nuclear family. And because of that, I think there's a lot of ways in which people who were able to kind of access the series and like sit down with their family and watch it every week watched this and felt very betrayed by it. And that's something that we're going to talk about a lot when we get to responses. But here's a quote from Lynch. He says, "Incest is troubling to a lot of people because they're probably, doing it at home." And then he laughs.
I was about to laugh too. I don't want to be like unserious about it. Oh my God. But
he's like, you're probably doing it at home. That's what this was all about. The loneliness, shame, guilt, confusion, and devastation of the victim of incest. It also dealt with the torment of the father, the war in him. And like, have we ever heard Lynch talk that much about another one of his movies?
Yeah.
That's
not my perception. I don't watch a lot of his, not a ton of his interviews, but like I've never
that's really
remembered him being
it
so
really
direct.
Struck me. Yeah, because that's like a really...
That's like a
nail on the head. Yeah, you want to know what my
coffin.
film's about? Here's exactly what my film is about.
Wow.
Like,
I kind of love that though for this topic
for
specifically.
this film. Yeah.
He's like, I'm not playing around.
Yeah. Not
Good.
with this.
I hope you feel uncomfortable. You
That's
creep.
the point. Does it feel a little close to home?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love
Do you not like this critique on maybe what you're doing?
Yeah. Yep, yep, yep.
Wow,
Which, like, I think this is also where you can see some Barbarian connections come in, because the cyclicality of trauma, the idea of, like, the evil inside the house, the abusive father, the incest themes.
Yeah, I guess there's just so, like,
there's
totally different that...
But there's so many, like...
Holy shit.
Yeah, yeah. Mother Laura.
We should do Going Blind more often, because we've really, like, connected on, like, the 2 episodes we've done this with.
It's been fun so far.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, I feel like I have to, like, nod here to the fact that David Foster Wallace wrote a lot about this film. I have very complicated feelings on David Foster Wallace. I have particularly complicated feelings on his take on Laura Palmer, because his take is basically that Laura is morally ambiguous, and that's why American audiences don't like and wanted to see her punished, which is very much not how I read the film.
Yeah,
like
I just feel like she's just so like traumatized that she's just trying to grasp at like
very much
feeling,
and it really, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. The 90s were a really different time. Like, I think it is so interesting seeing how differently her behavior was read in 92. Because like to me today, watching it with like our greater understanding of like what trauma does to you, it's much easier to watch it and just be like, she's self-medicating and she's like using whatever coping mechanisms she can access to get through the horrors that she's living through.
Yeah, well, it's the aspect of like control. Like she can control these
tiny things and literally nothing else in her life. Yeah. And so I never see any of those things as like things that make me dislike Laura for even a moment. And very much the response at the time was like Laura, like I think the David Foster Wallace line is like, she's both been sinned against and is a sinner. And I'm like, I
think people who think that have never watched anything.
Yeah.
Because also I love that the reason why I love her character, because it's easy to come, I get how people can just surface level her that way. Mm-hmm. But like, for me, I loved seeing that side of her because I was like, oh, she's human.
She's human.
She's struggling. And to like struggle so openly and like you feel so bad for her.
And it's like, honestly, to me, one of the best and earliest and most like unflinching depictions of like that kind of a mental health crisis from like a female character in popular media at that point.
Well, also like the one line that gets me is when she asks is it like Donna when she's like, are you my best friend? I know. And it like hurts because she's like, I don't know who to fucking trust. I can't trust myself. Like I can't trust my family.
Oh my God.
Like I don't have anyone. Like, are you my best? And it like that's the moment where I'm like, listen to that fucking line and sit with that for like 5 fucking minutes. Yeah. Yeah. And you'll just get like how
that one, her delivery on the like, is it true? Is just like,
yeah, she's just such a like. I just want to hug her the whole time.
Her your Laura disappeared. It's just me now. Like,
yeah, there's so many good lines that she. God,
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if anyone has that take, you are surface level watching this and don't get
agree.
You don't know what's going on and you're just like, oh, she's a slut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's just slut shaming Laura Palmer.
Yeah.
Like
How dare.
stop.
That's why she's
dead.
dead. You killed her.
Yes. Your slut shaming did. So again, moving into production, I told you this film was troubled.
Cursed.
A big chunk of that.
Oh, no.
Or a big chunk of at least the reason why
Started
the film
with the hernia.
started with the hernia and it goes downhill from there. Down hernia from there.
Down hernia from there.
So part of what makes this film kind of feel, especially I think in the first third, like there's something a little bit not right narratively perhaps, is that there's supposed to be a lot more Kyle MacLachlan in it. And they can't get more Kyle MacLachlan because Kyle MacLachlan doesn't want to do this movie at all.
Oh, no, he doesn't either.
At all.
Yeah.
And so that's why you get the Chris Isaac character getting added in as the special agent to kind of try. I
like him.
I like the performance he gives, but it so is just like off-brand Dale Cooper.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard not to feel the absence of Kyle MacLachlan there.
Oh, 1000%.
So why did Kyle MacLachlan not want to do this? Well, he actually delays the shoot by threatening to pull out completely. It gets like delayed by months. There are two main reasons that he kind of cites for this. One is that he didn't want to be typecast as Cooper, which I get, but also like that it's Hollywood, man.
Yeah, he was younger though too. I kind of How old was he?
It's
30s.
I don't know. Probably early 30s. But and of course now he's gone on to like such a wild career.
I know.
Like he's everything. He's baby girl.
Yeah. Typecast as Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, exactly. And so he also kind of felt abandoned in the second season of the show, and he's still feeling hurt by that. He's like, I feel like David left us. I've got some quotes from him talking about this and talking about feeling bad in retrospect that he felt this way. But the compromise they come to is that he'll shoot the project, but only for 5 days, which is like nothing. Again, when Laura Palmer was originally cast for the TV series to be a corpse and shoot one flashback scene, she was on for 4 days.
Oh, man.
So, like, that's nothing.
Yikes.
Which is why the whole intro gets rewritten. And then here's the Kyle MacLachlan quote that I brought in. He said, quote, I was fairly resentful when the film Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me came around. I wanted to have a meaningful discussion about some of those scenes, and David was unwilling to do that, so I was not in those scenes. Chris Isaac was in them instead of me, and looking back, I blame myself for the process. You learn a lesson, and that sort of was the crack. I don't know if David and I will work together again. I hope so. This was from before The Return. So they do go on to work together again.
Okay.
So there's a happy ending.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, just maybe this young and Hollywood and everything, yeah.
And I can understand also when David Lynch is like the person who, like his first major role was in Dune with David Lynch, and then he goes on from that to Blue Velvet. So like David Lynch has been a huge part of his career, and to then see Twin Peaks go off the rails like that in the second season because David's basically gone. I could understand feeling like, Daddy left me.
Yeah.
You
like,
know?
I don't want to do this if we're not.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I can get it, but I do think the movie would have been even better with more Dale Cooper.
He's so good. I mean, even the way they credit him in the beginning is like as Agent Dale, and you like barely see him.
Dale Cooper, yeah. We have Sherilyn Fenn and Richard Beamer as kind of conspicuous absences from the cast. They do come back for Twin Peaks The Return, but there was apparently, and this was another part of why a couple actors didn't want to come back and were completely written out. It was because Beamer was supposed to have a scene where he tries to trade a kiss with Laura for coke, and he felt like that just turned his character into a dealer and kind of went back on some of the characterization. And so I think a lot of it was also the actors were used to Twin Peaks, the TV series, in this much kind of lighter tone. Yeah. And so I think a lot of them saw the script for this and were like,
I'm good.
Oh no,
yeah,
I can't.
Thank you. Yeah, wild.
Cheryl Lee, on the other hand, was really excited, which I love. Like, she, finally got to play Laura alive, which was a really big deal because she'd only gotten tiny little snippets of her. And she said she got so deep into this character that it took her 2 weeks to kind of come out of Laura after the film wrapped. And
there's some big acting in this, so yeah,
oh my god, yeah,
just like shaking it off a little bit.
Brought in a quote from her where she says, I think it was about 2 weeks after filming, I was standing in the grocery store checking out in line, and all of a sudden I realized I was having my own thoughts again. Because that whole experience, Cheryl has to go over there. My life, my thoughts, my wants, my needs, they have to be set aside, especially in that kind of a concentrated creative experience.
Yeah.
And like...
this is a dark character.
Yeah.
There's a lot of... like her scream. There's a lot of screaming.
A lot of screams. And she talks about how she tried to make each scream different. And I'm like, that's a scream queen.
Yeah, she really did.
Yeah. She succeeded.
I can imagine though this kind of role, and not to be like, I don't feel like that's method at all. It's just like you ever think you go down this wormhole, and it's a lot of energy.
This is about the most a project can ask from you, I think.
Sure.
Like as an actor.
Yeah.
So I mentioned there's a character who's recast here. Obviously, Donna from the TV series on TV is played by Lara Flynn Boyle. Here she's played by Moira Kelly. The official reason given is scheduling conflicts. However,
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either. According to the book, Weirdsville, USA, The Obsessive Universe of David Lynch, she allegedly felt like some of Lynch's writing of female characters was misogynistic, which is really interesting. Which, like... I'm not going to say I don't see where she's coming from. What I am going to say, though, is that she was dating Kyle MacLachlan from 1990 to 1992, and they'd just broken up by the time filming began. So I do kind of think that's maybe a little bit of an incentive for both of them to not want to be spending as much time on this set.
Well, neither of them were... They would have never seen each other.
They would have never seen each other.
He was barely on it.
He's barely there.
Oh, funny. Yeah, it's kind of a jump scare.
It's very weird. Yeah.
The other girl's great. But...
she does an incredible job, and I just think it's such a...
shoes to fill, man.
It's so, like, it's never not going to feel like that's the wrong Laura. Or the wrong Donna.
Yeah.
And, like, I feel terrible saying that because it's got absolutely nothing to do with Moira's performance. She does a great job.
Yeah.
It's just, you're so used to Lara Flynn Boyle's version of that character that, like, nothing else is going to quite... hit.
Yeah, you just can't do that with something that's like so character driven and like so like you're wrapped, like you said, everyone has like a favorite character and like,
and a lot of people it was Donna.
She's such a presence. So yeah, I forgot that she was recast.
That's one of the most painful things to see for
it's
me.
tough.
Yeah. There's also, I brought in a Chris Isaak quote because he's really embarrassed by his acting in this. And
Chris Isaak, please.
He's the one who kind of is like off-brand Dale Cooper.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and he's the one who sings Wicked Game, that song. He says, quote, "There's a scene Kiefer and I did with Harry Dean Stanton playing a trailer park owner. Harry'd worked himself up and was crying. Real tears were running down his face, and that really brings you to attention when you're doing a scene. For me, the uninitiated, it was like, wow, what's he doing? He's acting, Chris, as opposed to you who's reading his lines like a cardboard cutout."
No.
He's so mean to himself.
I think he did great.
I think he was fine. It's a short role. I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Frank Silva, who plays Bob, on the other hand, which, do you know the famous how Bob came to be story?
I don't know if I remember. Refresh.
Okay,
refresh.
Quick refresh, especially because Travis doesn't know this, and he's gonna love it. So Bob, Frank Silva, was originally a set dresser on Twin Peaks. Oh, you do know this?
I know this.
You know this? Okay.
Just refresh.
Okay.
Listening might not.
He was a set dresser. They catch a shot. Well, before this, David Lynch has a quick conversation with him because he's like, "I like your look. Are you an actor as well?" And Frank Silva's like, "Yeah, I act on the side."
Sure.
And then I think later that same day, they're shooting a scene in Laura's bedroom, and I think the AD nudges Lynch and is like, "You caught somebody in the shot there, and you can see somebody in the mirror." And he's like, "Who is it?" And he's like, "Oh, you can see Frank." And David Lynch watches it back, and he's like, "I love it." And thus the character of Frank is born. Was through this complete accident that David Lynch just saw and was like, that. Which I love.
Imagine?
I love.
And then he's like, "You're creepy enough."
Yeah, and Frank has a great time. He's having a delightful time.
He really...
Yeah.
He gets me, man.
It's
tough.
That smile he gives.
I don't... Just... I don't get that creeped out. I have a visceral reaction to seeing him on screen.
He's quite something. And I brought in a quote from him.
Oh, perfect.
He said, quote,
I know I'm creepy. No.
Yeah, the thing I love about playing Bob is that it's primal therapy. You would think that, I know.
I don't think I like that either.
I know. You would think that after doing all these horrible things, he'd be shaking and all wrapped up in it, but it's the total opposite for me. It's like going into a playpen. I would feel so relaxed and so calm after getting all that crap out and having an excuse. That's the best way of doing something.
I don't think I like
That's
that.
terrifying.
Confirms
Yep.
that does come from a real place from him.
So just,
I don't think I like that anymore.
I'm just
even
gonna
more
quote
so
that and not say anything about it.
He said that for people to hear.
Yep.
Just
just putting it out there.
don't like that,
Yep.
Sienna.
Yep.
Thank you for confirming
You're welcome.
that for me.
So, this
Ugh.
film shoots for 2 months, from the beginning of September to the end of October
2
1991. Yeah, pretty fast, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
It's about half in Washington State and half in LA. Laura's death, I love this story. Laura's death was supposed to be shot on location in a cabin in Washington, but the shoot goes over schedule and has to be moved to an LA soundstage. Or, I'm sorry, not a cabin, the train caboose that it's in.
Oh, sure.
And they shot it on their very last day of production on Halloween 1991. And it was the birthdays of both Michael Anderson, who plays the little person in the red room, and
great.
Frank Silva. His birthday is Halloween.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So, moving
Actual-
along, no
actual
comment.
devil, yeah.
And then, oh my God, I completely forgot about this.
Don't you love rereading your notes sometimes? You're like, oh, shit, that's
Yeah,
there.
it's
Yeah.
like it's for the first time again. So, lest we think we're done with the weird Halloween shit,
Okay.
in an even weirder true crime crossover,
Oh.
here's a quote from Frank Silva.
Oh.
Quote,
I murdered someone. And it released a primal thing in me.
This story really gives me the heebie-jeebies, Al. He says, 5 days after Halloween in Seattle, they found the body of a girl off Avenue 37 up towards the river. And the weird thing about it was that her name was Teresa Briggs. Teresa Banks is the first girl who gets killed, and Bobby Briggs was one of the characters on the show. And when they did an autopsy, they discovered that the murder had taken place 5 days earlier on Halloween night, the same night that we were shooting The Killing of Laura Palmer on the set in LA. It's really weird stuff.
Frank has an alibi.
Yeah.
Got it.
Art imitates life, life imitates art. So
that is spooky.
Teresa Briggs, are you kidding me?
Ooh.
Yeah. So that one really upset me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. That
Yeah.
gives it a whole other
level, right?
Yeah.
Truly a haunted set.
Yeah.
Harry Goaz, who plays Andy on Twin Peaks. We love Andy. Andy's the one who has the flirtation with the secretary at the police precinct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He shot a couple of scenes that got cut from Fire Walk with Me, but he still gives interviews about it. And there's one where he was especially excited about kind of how much further a movie could go than a TV show, given that, like, this could go for an R rating. And like on TV, there was a lot of stuff they couldn't show that they could show here, such as Laura Palmer's tits.
Yeah.
Tits. And glorious tits they are. But so here's a quote from him that I just had to shout out. He says, "There was a joke going around the set calling the movie Caligula 2, and I begged David to let me do something in the nude. Andy would have been great naked."
Stop, I love him.
Caligula 2.
I also great.
Incredible.
I'm not going to attempt to say that because I'm really sleepy.
Twin Peaks Caligula 2.
Yeah. Reminds me of the coagula from Get Out.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, love. A lot of other cast members, including Bowie, are doing other projects at the same time, and so they're working under this enormous time crunch. Bowie felt this particularly hard, hated his own Southern accent, and so he asks Lynch to...
It's rough.
It's not great.
Yeah.
It's not great. But also, like, it's David Bowie.
Yeah, who
like, if
cares?
he'd done a good Southern accent, that would be disorienting, too.
I was going to say, like, being in a Lynch film, I feel like you can get away with being bad and be like, no, I intended that.
Yeah,
that
it's
was
intentional.
Yeah.
He's from the Red Room. He's just come back. And so he asks David Lynch to overdub it when he reappears in The Return. I brought in a quote where Bowie says, "I did all my scenes in 4 or 5 days because I was in rehearsals for the 1991 Tin Machine tour. I was only there for a few days. They crammed me." To which my partner said, "What's so wrong with that?"
Yeah, truly.
So, it, like, just
cram in some Bowie.
I'm sorry, I had to.
Oh my god, that's funny.
Angels, big deal across David Lynch's work, especially so here, and that's something that cinematographer Ron Garcia, who also shot Coppola's One for the Heart, was thinking very consciously about when he was setting up those kind of high-angle shots of Laura, where the camera is the angel, essentially. And author Chris Hughes actually even compares the film's visual style to Jean Cocteau's Blood of a Poet, which love. Also kind of has that sort of like angelic high camera type of look. Random little set tid for one scene. Cheryl Lee was asked to inhale 5 cigarettes at once. She does it and immediately faints.
You know, shit.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Why did they ask her to do that?
I don't know. I don't have a good answer.
What does that have to do with anything? What did they do? Puffing out smoke? Like,
it very much feels like the sort of thing where David Lynch was like,
do a cigar.
I just got this image of you having a cigarette between each finger, Laura. Do you think you can do that, sweetie?
Yeah.
And
she's like, okay.
She does, and he's like, solid gold. And then she just like, yeah.
Bless her.
I love her so much.
My God. To be fair, if that man asked me to do it, I would too.
Oh, absolutely. So, yeah. I don't smoke. I would absolutely smoke 5 cigarettes at once for David Lynch.
I'll pretend I'm 20 again.
Yeah. This film is edited by unsung Lynchian hero Mary Sweeney, who I have to shout out. She worked with David Lynch. She was a longtime collaborator, worked in multiple different positions. Producer, she was a writer, she was an editor, started with him on Blue Velvet, worked with him all the way up through Inland Empire, at which point they were briefly married from 2006 to 2007, which does touch a little bit on some of my most complicated feelings about Lynch, which is like he is somebody who has worked with a lot of really amazing women who kind of get, at least the ones who he's romantically involved with, kind of get dropped by the wayside a little bit from time to time, which, you know,
again, still a man in Hollywood.
He's still a man in Hollywood. That's just like, I have a big thing about, like, I think it's really important with people like David Lynch to both like hero worship them for their art and also recognize the ways in which they are still people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just want to put that out there. Love Mary Sweeney. Mary Sweeney deserves her due. I think she's a big part of why his films were as powerful during that period as they were. She's also the one who wrote the Straight Story script, so she does all of the things. Let's see. Badalamenti from his Criterion interview. So Badalamenti, because Twin Peaks is so popular and because his score for Twin Peaks is so popular, ends up getting called to work with Paul McCartney. And he goes to Paul McCartney, and Paul McCartney immediately is like, has a story that he's clearly been dying to tell him. And so he goes up to Badalamenti and he tells him, you know, I met the Queen. And Badalamenti's like, yeah, that's not surprising to Paul McCartney. And Paul McCartney's like, she cut our meeting short to go upstairs to watch Twin Peaks. And then Paul McCartney gives him a punch on the shoulder, and Badalamenti's like, I'm still black and blue.
Oh my God, stop it.
So
that's amazing.
Some McCartney jealousy there. On composing the Laura Palmer theme, Badalamenti recalled that David always wanted it slower and always loved things falling. So he was really working with this idea of like this kind of downward motion.
Yeah.
And they composed that theme in one session.
Oh, whoa.
One session.
Sometimes you just know.
Yeah. He and Lynch were sitting together. Lynch was kind of describing things aloud to him. Yeah. He starts moving back and forth between major and minor, and Lynch is like, you know, doing his Lynch thing. He's like, it's solid gold. It's beautiful. Yeah. Love it, Nixter.
Yeah.
And
make it go down more.
Yeah. Make it go down. I love it when things are falling.
Fall with me.
Fall with me. Slower.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
And afterwards, Badalamenti's like, great. Okay, I'm gonna record our session. I'll go back and I'll work on this, workshop it a little bit. And David's like, don't touch a thing. And they never do. And that's Laura Palmer's theme.
Well, again, we did a rap and then we kept it in the film. So it's, oh my God. It's so good. The music just really just like cuts through you.
It's so good.
That's so fun.
But he goes on to say that particularly for Fire Walk With Me, as opposed to the series, he wanted to kind of set it apart musically by using a lot of cool jazz and also a lot of like just like dissonance. He describes like using a lot of like weird bowing on the bass, and that from the opening titles onward he's planting a seed musically that things are dark and they're only going to get darker. Like that piece does not resolve into a major the way the other.
Sorry, the wind just started to
yeah, we've got some howling going on out there.
It's spooky, as you said, things got darker.
Yeah,
the wind went
darker and darker.
Yeah.
So like as opposed to the Twin Peaks themes, like bum bum,
yeah,
bum bum, that like it moves in and out of major and minor key. Once you get to Fire Walk with Me, it starts minor and it stays minor. So, moving on to the release, this film premiered at Cannes to an infamously divided audience.
Oh, God.
Engels and David Lynch have different stories about this.
Sure.
Engels flat out denies David Lynch's version. David Lynch says that the film was booed. I know who I believe, and it's David Lynch. Most of the kind of like contemporary critical accounts of the screening say that like it was kind of a mixture of cheers and boos, and that sounds pretty accurate to me. That it was like a split between the two.
Sure.
Lynch goes on to say that he thinks part of the cold reception in France was because the then head of Sibi was disliked in his home country. And I'm like, listen, I'm sure that didn't help, but there's a lot of other factors going on in why this movie was poorly received, my friend. And I don't think that the majority of them was people hating the head of the French studio.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think anybody else is as caught up in studio politics as you think they are.
As you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's funny.
American press was even more brutal to this film than foreign press, which
I could see that.
Kind of makes sense. It's probably had a lot to do with how different this was to what people were attracted to in the series.
I think, sure.
You know, like I said, so much of it is about the series setting up this, like, almost a false sense of security that then the movie absolutely rips to shreds. And I love that. But Mary Sweeney, our unsung queen, has a great quote about that. She said, so badly people wanted it to be like the TV show, and it wasn't. It was a David Lynch feature, and people were very angry about it. They felt betrayed. So we're going to come back to this word betrayal a few times here. Here's a fun quote from someone who felt betrayed. Quentin Tarantino.
Of course he
fucking It's been a while since we've come back to him, hasn't it?
Shut up.
He says that David Lynch had disappeared so far down his own ass, man, that I have no desire to see another David Lynch movie until I hear something different.
Oh, shut up.
Shut up. Shut up.
Go away.
Like, what I wrote was the irony of Quentin Tarantino criticizing another famous director for being too up his ass. My God. Look in the mirror.
Did your head just pop back out the other way?
Yeah.
Out
Did it do
your
like a
ass?
full, full 360 through your body?
I mean,
gross.
Whatever.
Kind of a typical review from the New York Times. Janet Maslin said, quote, Mr. Lynch's taste for brain-dead grotesque has lost its novelty. So
brain-dead grotesque.
There were a lot of reviews that I found that kept coming back to like brain-dead, zombie. Like there was a lot of that. And I was like, weird. I genuinely don't know where that's coming from. I don't have a good theory on that, but that it was like a weird kind of recurring theme that I saw coming up in the complaints. In a weird first, though, that I don't think I've ever heard about before, this film was theatrically released in Japan before it was released in the United States. And a big part of that was because there was this giant Twin Peaks fan base there called Peakers.
Oh my God, stop.
Peakers. So it's released there under the title Twin Peaks, The Last 7 Days of Laura Palmer. Comes out in mid-May and then not in the US until August.
Wow.
I could not find good worldwide box office data. So I don't know what those Japanese releases made. I assume that they were probably comparable to America.
Yeah, for the small group of them.
But for domestic release, it earned 4.16 mil.
That's devastating.
Brutally bad performance.
Damn.
Which, especially because the break-even point after all the acquisition costs put it about 15 mil. So it made like less than a third back.
Yikes. And to have like all this like lead up and then like
well, and like Lynch goes on to say he thinks part of it was that people were just kind of like the hunger for Twin Peaks was fading by that point. And it's like even as fast as they rushed it, it was still almost 2 years later.
Sure.
And like in a like major internet world, that's like a long time gap. You're not gonna have like internet chat rooms keeping the fandom alive in the same way that you do.
Yeah, the excitement leading up to it, and then even just the expectation of like seeing the show, and it's like it isn't
right. Whereas like
show.
Now, we can go like 2 years between like different seasons on Severance, and it's like
for
normal.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think we were much less used to that kind of a time gap back then. So because of this, there were supposed to be 2 sequels to this movie. There were going to be 2 other films in the Twin Peaks world that do not get made because of this. But one of them was going to tell the story of the discovery of Laura's transcript of Annie's message. When Annie comes back and is like, write this in your diary. It was going to be about finding that in the diary.
Interesting.
Film gets nominated for a handful of Saturn's Independent Spirit Awards, mostly for Cheryl Lee and Badalamenti. They're the 2 who, like, even at the time, people were like, okay, we can recognize that they're doing a good job, even if we hate everything else that's going on around them.
Yeah.
New Line Cinema, who's handling the release, was so nervous about this film that they didn't even hold critic screenings, which that is a sure sign of a lack of faith. And it got truly some of the worst reviews I have ever read.
Oh no.
Which like the Ebert review wasn't even like the most interestingly catty this time. And Siskel flat out refused to review it at all. He was like, it's not even worth my time.
Oh my god, no.
Really, the only positive contemporary review in a major publication came from Steve Erickson at the LA Weekly, who wrote, quote, "The spinelessness of our culture is breathtaking. We're happy to call someone a genius and to celebrate that genius when all it means is some kind of kooky eccentricity that won't get in the way of whatever else we're doing. But when that genius insists on its own dark audacity, when it not only overstays its welcome but moves in with all its bizarre habits, then we smuggle the new movie through town in the middle of the night like transporting radioactive waste to the nuclear dump."
Because love this quote.
Oh, I love this quote. Because whatever else we want from our culture, we don't want consequences. People are ultimately appalled not by Fire Walk With Me's badness, but by its integrity. And I'm just like, go
That is a great review.
Yeah. Other people, like other journalists, have since gone back and like highlighted this Steve Erickson article as like one of the most brave pieces of critical journalism.
But it's
ever.
true.
It is.
Where people wanted to just stay where it was, it leans and goes so far into itself that people are like, I don't like it because of
people
that.
want to be comforted. I'm like,
that's what I like about Lynch. I like the off the rails. I like the weird. I sometimes like it for vibes and not knowing what the fuck is going on, which is fine. I like living in that weird liminal space he creates.
Really, and he's the best at creating that.
Yeah.
So
that's a great quote. Oh my god.
If y'all want to read about this film, go read the Steve Erickson article because it's incredible.
It's amazing.
And like love that he uses a nuclear metaphor. Very up my
I was
alley.
gonna say
This film now holds a 65% from critics and a 78% from audiences on Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is. I love that the audience score is higher. I think the critics score, obviously, it's being dragged down by those reviews from the time. It's since having a reappreciation, and I think will only continue to with his death. But I noticed one of the things that was so funny to me to see, this is the only film, I'm sure there are a couple others, but it's the only film I've seen so far on Letterboxd that the most common score is a 5 out of 5.
Really?
Yeah. This is a Letterboxd favorite.
It's 'cause those who love.
Yeah. Yeah. The ones who know.
Yeah.
Know.
Amazing.
There's also an unofficial extended version of the movie called the Blue Rose Cut that you can look up if you're interested. Nice. So just a little shout out to that. And also just one silly little tidbit on the American versus British releases. The British prints don't have subtitles for the club scene because David Lynch was so conflicted and he kept going back and forth on, I want subtitles. No, I don't want subtitles. No, I want subtitles. No, I don't want subtitles. And so he changed his mind so many times that they ran out of time and just ended up leaving them out of the film, which feels very on brand for him.
Yeah, for sure. Creative decisions are hard.
Indeed. Influence. So Lynch said in 1997 that, quote, Fire Walk with Me was a beautiful experience in a way. When you're down, when you've been kicked down in the street and then kicked a few more times till you're really bleeding and some teeth are out, then you really only have up to go. It's so beautiful to be down there.
Oh my God.
I love him so much.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. And like, thank God he at least lived to see a little bit of this film's reappreciation. Although, you know, I do think it will only continue past his death. It warms my heart that because this film was really personally important to him, it warms my heart that he lived to see that shift start to happen. And honestly, I think even like some of his later work in the 90s, like Lost Highway, probably helped to contextualize it when that came out. For sure. I think Twin Peaks The Return, which I still haven't seen, but I understand that is a lot more like Fire Walk with Me and helped people come to
is it really?
That's what I've heard, is that it's much more that tone. Which I want to see it so badly. I have many movies that I have to return to Lisa at Video Library before I can rent that. But,
return those videotapes.
I've got to return my tapes. But I think it kind of proves that Fire Walk with Me was not like the exception to the Lynchian rule. I think the TV series was. And I think there are a lot of people who became fans of the TV series and because of that thought that they were getting into something that is just not what they were. But it also, you know, this film, I think, directly contributes to some of the rise in like auteurist TV that you see in like the 2000s and 2010s. I think also there's a lot of people who've made really good points about this. One of them is Brent Simon for the AV Club, who points out that it's basically just way too ahead of its time in its depiction of sexual violence. That audiences are better prepared for this kind of subject matter now. But it is beloved by directors, and so I brought in a list of a couple of faves who have professed their love for this movie. Greg Araki has called it a perfect film, which makes perfect sense. John Waters loves it. Celine Sciamma loves it. It's Jane Schoenbrun's fave, who's my fave. Also interesting because all those filmmakers are queer. And I just happen to think that there's something very gay about this movie. There's also even a Fire Walk with Me reference in my favorite book of all time, Roberto Bolaño's 2666, where there is a cyber cafe named after it. And one of the characters is like, why is this cyber cafe on the like Mexican-American border called Fire Walk with Me? And the guy next door turns to him and is like, Mexico is just a collection of pastiches. And I'm like, such a good
word.
Yes.
Oh God, that's amazing.
Yes. So I feel like we really don't have time for much of a film theory rant corner, and I feel like it was kind of...
Oh my God, I mean, this could be a whole episode just on that.
Absolutely.
For this film.
Well, and I also feel like I kind of tried to incorporate the case for it throughout this episode, because basically my thesis for this episode is that this is Lynch's most analyzable film. I think this is the film that if you are the sort of person who wants to go into a movie and see one specific consistent message that every single piece you can pull apart and it leads directly back to this message, this is the one that does that more so than any of his other movies, compared to, you know, so much of his work is much more dreamlike and surrealist and is not designed to be analyzed in that way.
Right.
This one is, and I honestly think part of what tips us off to that is Lil at the beginning. Her dance that she does with the blue rose, and like Chris Isaac's character interprets every little piece of that. I think this is Lynch's Lil movie. Like, this is the movie where every single little detail actually means something.
Yeah.
Which is not to say, I don't mean that his other films don't mean something. I mean, like,
this one sets you up with that.
It's conscious.
Yeah.
They're all specifically leading you back to a thesis that he's gone on the record about. And that is so rare for him.
That's why I feel like they lead with that clip. Is for you to sit there and analyze everything. Like, he literally gives you a map to be like, this is what we're doing here.
He starts you out by being like, this is the game we're playing. Are you going to play along?
Yeah.
If you want to pick everything apart, because he knows that's what his fans do, here, I'm going to give you something really juicy to pick apart.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think it's one of his... I think everything he does is amazing, but I think this is one of his masterpieces. Yeah,
I love it. It's so good. It just makes me want to deep dive into going that Lynch
I have
verse
to go
again.
back to the series now. Yeah.
So good.
Thoughts, feelings on rewatch?
Yeah, just I was surprised at how much I remembered. I was really afraid I was going to be like, but
I don't
and just
know
come
who
in here
this
with vibes.
is. Yeah.
But yeah,
Which I'm sure he would have also been fine with.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you can just for vibes,
Absolutely.
background noise. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was fun. Now that you pointed out all the kind of correlations, but yeah, it was wildly different movies to
Yes,
watch.
but with really similar subject matter.
Just like the music, it just put me back, and it's like I fell in love with Lynch when I was in film school. I was late introduced to him. Just again, the first actually thing I saw of his was the I used to go down Vimeo wormholes of like watching short after short after short when you could like do that then.
Did you watch David Lynch shorts before anything else? That's wild.
Yeah.
That's really diving into the deep end.
Yeah. Well, I used to come home like drunk from the bars, and like crack my window, and I used to chain smoke, and
So Laura
I put
Palmer.
on like the when I tell you I really wanted to live like in his universe, I started to like thrift at that point, like super thrift at that point where it's like I dressed like the things because it's like college. I was like in a new city. I was in Chicago by myself, young, whatever, and I used to put on that bunny short like almost every night.
Oh, I love.
I would
rabbits.
sit there and watch it like
rabbits.
on repeat, and so like I like the weird. So
Me too.
It's fun revisiting him for me, especially as I'm getting older, because it just puts me back in this like my love of film and my love of like surrealism in film and just like the creative weirdo-ness of it all. And I kind of like miss that part of me sometimes. So it's always fun to kind of like have that be put back and be, like remember like being weird and just sticking to that. So it's always fun to kind of revisit. And since his passing, I haven't watched anything of his, unlike like everyone else, I feel like. So it's kind of fun to get back there as the push to start to rewatch some of his stuff. And watch the ones I haven't seen, sorry.
Yeah, I desperately need to see The Return. I still haven't seen.
We should watch it at the same time. Let me know when you're going to kick it up.
We should.
And I'll kind of try and watch it at the same time so we can talk about it.
Yes, yeah, because I feel like that would needs to be discussed.
Yeah.
Do we want to tell people what our next episode
is? We just told ourselves right before we
sure did.
For the first time ever, we came in fully forgetting.
That is not the first time ever.
Is it?
That is not at all the first time
ever. I think I forget
ever.
every time, so maybe it's the first time I saw you look at me with a like white face.
That's fair.
Yeah, we're because we have so many picked for like summer and things coming up, like themes and stuff like that we didn't really know what to do next since it's going to be for you all. It's coming out like mid-April.
Yeah, and we're like we're kind of. There are some things we're really excited for in May. Yes. There are things that are paired to things at the theater, but we're like, what do we put in this space that we can tie into other things going on in the horror world in the month of April? Yeah,
which it's something you guys haven't heard from us yet. And with Universal, hint, coming out with its like theme park, which I'm so fucking excited about. Or not theme park, but like the Universal monster aspect. We're doing Universal monsters. Yay! So you're gonna do.
I'm gonna do The Invisible Man from 1933, which neither of us have seen and are both really excited for, because one of my favorite films that I've mentioned on the podcast before, Santa Sangre, has like clips from The Invisible Man in it, and one of the characters is like really obsessed with it. So I'm excited to actually see what the original's like.
Yeah. Same. Yeah, I think I've only seen clips of it. I don't know if I'm gaslighting myself. I'm pretty sure I've only seen clips. And then I'll be doing 35, Bride of Frankenstein. Yes. So yeah, there's so many good Universal monsters, but I feel like we have to talk about her.
She's mother.
I know.
Like, we must.
She's such a little bird. And I love her. So yeah, that'll be fun. I'm excited to see.
It's gonna be
a
good one
to see those two. Other than that, I think we have tickets on sale we're playing Hausu.
We do
at the Jean Cocteau Cinema and
end of April.
Yeah,
those are available online.
Yeah, tickets are definitely on sale by now. We will make sure of that. We're also playing. We're doing like an anti-prom in May. So we're doing Carrie. So we'll be probably doing an episode on Carrie in the future.
Sure. Yeah, that's on our favorite period films. Obviously,
I know. We actually asked if me and Siena were like, can we do a prom like royalty, and then we really want to dump blood,
please,
like consensually dump blood on them. I don't know if they'll let us do that, but anyways, metaphorical blood. The tampon's not real. But
not this
time. Other than that, we're gonna be at Morgue and Crypt Horror Fest in Albuquerque in September. Tickets are on sale at Morgue and Crypt abq.com.
I'm still voting that we do like a Red Room.
We should do
wall.
a Red Room photo op because we did a photo op last year. I think we like learned our lesson from that. But yeah, we should do a Red Room.
We should. I feel like
that'd be
I would
sick.
go take a photo at the Red Room.
Yeah, and I'm excited to. We'll have some different merch there, and so that'll be fun. Why are you guys giggling?
Why are you
Anyways,
laughing back
shall we
there?
Thank these peanut gallery.
These gigglers.
Yes. Thanks, Warren. Thanks, Trav. Thanks,
Thanks,
Theo.
Theo. Who we love because he's not here laughing
he's
at
not
us.
giggling away. Other than that, thanks for listening to Splice Splatter.
Yeah.
Right?
And
the film podcast were
presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, Mexico. We're classic horror.
It's modern gore.
And until next time, we'll be right back.